It's 9:30. We are about to begin the meeting. The regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, this Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, 9:30, Laguna Woods, California. The meeting will come to order. We have an established quorum, and the purpose of the meeting is to conduct the regular Golden Rain Foundation Board meeting in accordance with Civil Code 4930 and was hereby noticed in accordance with Civil Code 4920. So, Director Goffhofer, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we acknowledge the media. And the next item is the approval of the agenda. And I think we should move 10B, which is the committee appointments, to 11E on unfinished business. Pardon? F, okay. Thank you. You're right. It would be committee appointments. Okay. And are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda? So if there are no further corrections, are there any objections to the corrected agenda? So if there are no objections to the corrected objection, it is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of April 21st, 2022, GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting. Are there any questions on corrections or deletions? So if there are no corrections or deletions, are there any objections? If there are no objections, the April 21st, 2022, GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next one would be the approval of the minutes for May 3rd, 2022, GRF Board Regular Open Meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none. Are there any objections? So if there's no objections, the minutes of May 3rd, 2022, GRF Board Regular Meeting is approved by unanimous consent. So the next is the approval of the minutes for May 19, 2022, GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting, and I only have one correction on that, and that was in the announcements, number 3, where it mentioned that a workshop on Microsoft 365 will be held at the up-and-coming purchasing ad hoc meeting. Actually, this is a presentation by Adventico, who is presenting the Microsoft workshops, and which we'll be going through for the next this month. Okay, and so we need to just cross out will be held on June 15th is the correct verbiage, and cross out at the up-and-coming purchasing ad hoc meeting. Yeah. So are there any other additions, corrections, deletions? If there are no other corrections, then are there any objections to the corrected GRF Board Agenda Meeting minutes? And if there are none, if there are no objections, then the minutes for May 19, 2022 GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting is approved by unanimous consent. So the next item is the report of the chair. And at this point in time, The only thing that I want to say is staff and our boards are working very hard for civility in this community. We're trying to put forth policies. We're trying to encourage people to treat each other with respect. And so I'm asking everybody that we all work on that, including the residents, the clubs, everybody, because basically we are trying very hard, to be able to have a quiet, respectful, and civil meeting every time we meet. So that's the only thing I could say at this point in time. So the next item would be the CEO report, and that's Siobhan Foster.
Thank you, President Carpenter. Honorable members of the board, this morning I'm going to give a brief presentation. We frequently talk about customer service and the importance of taking care of our residents, employee performance, and customer satisfaction. Today, I would like to take a moment to highlight some of our superstar employees. VMS Recognition of Excellence Awards presented each spring and fall highlight outstanding employees who demonstrate excellent customer service, achieve great results on projects, and regularly go above and beyond their job duties. These are professionals who serve our residents, exceed service expectations, and make a positive impact on the village living experience. On May 25th, recipients received a certificate and a gift card at a recognition ceremony at Clubhouse 7. Recipients were recognized in last Friday's What's Up in the Village e-newsletter, will be featured in the upcoming employee newsletter, and their photos will be posted at the entrance to the Human Resources Department. This morning, I would like to recognize those outstanding employees who were recognized on May 25th, starting with Jana Abel-Molaki from the Security Services Department. I apologize if I didn't get your last name correct. Erica Hernandez from Financial Services. Tom McCrae and Jennifer Murphy from the Recreation and Special Events Department. Maribel Flores and Juan Yocab from Landscaping Services. Liz Cortez, Gilberto Chagoya, and Philemon Flores from General Services. Dara Diem, Jose Saha, Christopher Kubota, Julio Romero, and Irma Sato, representing maintenance and construction, and they are known as the Damage Restoration Team. Delia Landetta from Human Resources, and Elise Rothrock from Media and Communications. I want to congratulate all of our Employee Excellence Award recipients for their hard work and dedication and outstanding achievements. And my hope is as you board members go about your business and you encounter them, that you also wish them congratulations on this outstanding recognition. So with that, I will conclude my presentation.
So the next item on the agenda is the open forum. 3 minutes per speaker, and you will be timed. At this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this board directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum. Speakers may not give their time to other people. No audio or video recording by attendees, no rude or threatening comments. Members can attend the meeting by joining Zoom link, which is 98131257242, or call 669-900-6833, or email meeting@vmsinc.org to have your messages read during the forum. So how many speakers do we have?
3.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the first one is Mary Domingo, Manor 2019A.
Okay.
Good morning to the board members, directors. My name is Mary Joyce. I go by Joyce. I've been here and I'm proud to be a resident of Laguna Woods for 19 years. And I'm here to just share some of my personal experience before I even retired as a teacher at Long Beach. The gist of this talk is something very personal, and it's working, and it's doable. I've been trying to do the best I can. For the first time ever, I had a workshop here at Laguna Woods. I asked my department head at the high school where I was at, can you allow me to just attend a workshop at Laguna Woods? And this workshop was like preparing myself to be a retiree at Laguna Woods. And right now, I'm enjoying at par what kind of life I have here in Laguna Woods. At the same token, I met and they found me the World Finances Group. Pilar was here to present to you what we are doing, and I'm proud to present to you just a little bit of your kind of approval as a board for us, Pilar and myself, to be back here in a smaller group, maybe our residents or some of your employees here at Laguna Woods. They're excellent. Most of the experience with your staff par excellence in their service. So here I'm so proud if in any case the board will be able to approve what Pilar, my fellow WFG group member, to present to you our purpose for this meeting. Thank you so much.
Good morning. So I'm Pilar Agravante. So we're together with Joyce. We're both members of World Financial Group. So we've been in the financial services industry for over 30 years. So, but what I want to talk to you about this morning is this national campaign that we're on. We are currently on this mission to bring financial literacy to 30 million families and individuals. And we hope to achieve that by the year 2030. So how is by these financial workshops. We do this for free, and we cover the gamut of personal finance. Everything and anything to do with increased cash flow, debt management, building your emergency fund, retirement plans, how to set those up or what's out there, even Social Security and estate preservation. So these are a number of 6 workshops, and we do this for free. And we do this by licensed professionals. So anything consultations, we do that for free.
Speaker time is up.
So we'd like to offer those services for free to your residents and to your employees, if we can.
Next up is Ed Elwell, Manor 3382C.
Good morning. Thank you for volunteering so much of your personal time to serve the residents of Laguna Woods Village. I know that tennis is only a very tiny part of your overall responsibilities, but it's a big part of my life here. You rely on VMS for advice, counsel, and research, both because they are closer to the action and because VMS will ultimately carry out your policy. As a result, VMS staff have more influence over your policy than any other stakeholder. Difficulties arise when VMS staff have an agenda that contradicts what the majority of the residents using an amenity prefer. Recreation employees have been unambiguous in promoting the court's reservation system. They work closely with minority groups in preparing and proposing revised tennis operating rules, ignoring the repeated input from the majority group. Last December, the tennis club with about 300 members held its annual election. This was an issue-oriented campaign with a pro-reservations candidate and an anti-reservations candidate for every position, but 2 uncontested positions. Every single reservations candidate was soundly defeated, and those favoring the whiteboard system were elected. This chart, and the one in your handout, shows the most important thing that anyone needs to understand about the tennis courts. The rectangle represents all the hours that the tennis facility is open. The green area represents the hours when there are always more courts available than people to play on them. The red area represents the few hours when there are more players than courts available. During the green hours, with the possible exception of the 2 afternoon ball machine courts and the 5 lighted courts during the winter months, there is absolutely no advantage to anyone from the court's reservation system. People without reservations and those with reservations have exactly the same expectation of being able to walk on the court immediately upon their arrival at the facility. During the red hours, some people perceive an advantage for reservations because players with reservations know they won't have any wait when they arrive. However, it can be proven with facts, not opinions, that fewer people have an opportunity to play with a reservation system than with a first-come, first-served system. A reservation system benefits a few at the expense of the many. When reservations were dropped for pickleball and paddle tennis, tennis was required to operate under a hybrid system. This has generated a tremendous amount of anger within the tennis community. That anger has not served us well, but I submit that it does not serve recreation, CAC, or GRF well either. Having the majority of the residents who actually use an amenity angry with those who set policy but don't use the amenity is not to your advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. Last up is Joseph Italiano, Manor 2183P.
Well, good morning to everyone. 3 things: history, ignorance, and intolerance. The first tennis club president was installed in 1989. Since that time, we operated under a first-come, first-served system. This system served us well. No person or no group asked for, and no one was given special privileges. All residents had equal access to the courts. We used to have a thriving challenge court. Individuals took it upon themselves to be a communication hub to arrange matches for other players. And a player could always find play by simply showing up at the courts. Even on the busiest days, wait times were minimal. We hosted tournaments, social events, lessons, clinics, and national championship tournaments. What has recreation's new policies brought to tennis? A reservation system dominated by a few to the exclusion of many. Players denied use of the backboard. Players denied use of the ball machines. Special privileges handed out by recreation, which are now embodied in the operating rules. A challenge court on life support. 3 legacy groups of over 40 people replaced by recreation's 1 group of 12. The opening of the courts to non-residents at VMS discretion. And VMS, GRF, and the CAC have chosen to remain ignorant of the harm that they have done and continue to visit on tennis in Laguna Woods. And with that ignorance comes the intolerance of any information that sits in opposition and a refusal to accept the collective knowledge, wisdom, and experience of the tennis board of directors, believing instead the narrative of the recreation department as it advocates for its own purpose. I stood here almost a year ago with a petition of 100 signatures of players who do not want the court's reservation system. I was not only challenged without basis, but recreation doubled down on its policy, ignoring the will of the resident players. The tennis residents players spoke their collective minds and voted out the previous unelected tennis board. Recreation's own survey found that 2/3 of the players do not want the court's reservation system. But that is not what you hear. It's 50-50, declares recreation, and that false narrative has been parroted by the CAC as if it were fact. My question to you is, what are you going to do to advance Laguna Woods tennis? Or are you going to allow VMS to pursue an agenda that does not align with the best interests of the tennis club and the playing residents or the village as a whole? The choice is yours. I'm just the humble messenger. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have one more. We have Joe Finscom, Manor 405D.
Good morning, directors. I spent 30 years of my life living in managed communities. In 20 of those years, I attended 3 meetings and spoke at none of them. So when I've run across this man in Laguna Woods, I played about a dozen sports here at one time or another, and something caught my eye. We'd heard we might lose the village games. Director Millman probably remembers that. Because I played those games and knew the sports and knew the players, I knew how much it meant to them. And there was a presentation made to perhaps make those done less often, or they could have faded away if we stopped them. And I checked with the other sports, and they came in and spoke. And CEC did the right thing and saved those games. That's what I spoke about. I also got into the pickle thing because pickleball, paddle tennis, and golf, I play all four sports. I gave a lot of information to these committees. All of it was true. At the end of the day, everything I had said that had been contradicted by VMS turned out to be correct. And if anybody wants details, then I go through it item by item. So there's two things I looked at that I tried to help with, and that's what I'm trying to do with tennis at this point in time. I play tennis as well. I really am concerned about what goes on with the club and the circumstances that could come across us in the future. I think probably, as much as anything, this would be probably the last time I was in two organization of president of tennis, and I was also on the golf greens committee. I resigned that simply so I don't draw too much attention to them because I'm on tennis right now. But really listen to the clubs and listen to the people. I know the stuff like you can't ever imagine. I mean, poor Brian, when he first started with the Village games, I knew these people. I knew hundreds of these people. I knew how they felt about the games, how the clubs felt about it, how it brought us together in many ways, how people went from one club to the other. It meant so much from a social standpoint. And we don't want to lose that. I'm just really here advocating for the last time in my lifetime probably. You won't see me on any board or any involved in anything in this community ever again. But this thing at tennis is a big deal. It's just a big deal. All the sports I played, I picked up my pickleball paddle, I picked up my tennis racket, I picked up my golf clubs, or whatever I picked up, I just went and played. A lot of us like to do that. And we don't know that 72 hours in advance all the time like some things require. It just restricts us to such a degree. So we'll make a presentation a week or a month from now, rather, when this comes up again. But I just want to get that into your minds. Talk to each other. And if you want to, talk to us more, because really, it's being missed. The whole thing behind this is really being missed. It's really important. So I appreciate all the time we've been given outside here from President Carpenter and from Yvonne Horton. We've had some meetings. They give us a lot of time. But we need to know what we're selling goes through, because it's important to the tennis club and it's important to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is all for the speakers.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask Brian, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. Good morning, Honorary President, Board of Directors. In regards to tennis, it's something that's been evaluated quite extensively over the last, I would say, 6, 8, 9 months. Taking the survey, taking input from players, from the club itself in regards to what should be in the updated policies and rules and regulations. So I think we've done our due diligence in regards to getting the input necessary to move the tennis program forward. It's a situation, in my opinion, my professional opinion, and I've managed tennis clubs before, that some of the things that they're kind of focused on holding on to is really something that's a little bit outdated. I think nowadays people do want to come in, they do want to make a reservation, they want to know what court they have. They don't want to hope that they can get onto a court within a reasonable time. So I think there's just some misconceptions that are being presented to you in regards to the 50-50 survey result. It was 1/3 to 2/3. So I think we addressed that and we made the proper modifications with the court's reservation system by having 3 courts being reservable and the other 7 being open to the previous concept using the whiteboard and just coming down. So I think that at this point in time, it's being evaluated and we're focusing on that and making sure that we're representing all the tennis players within the community here in Laguna Woods Village.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to comment? Okay, Reza.
Thank you for your concern. I play pickleball. I know, the reservation and court system. One thing that I want to say about the VMS staff, I respectfully disagree that the VMS staff do things on their own. They merely enforce the policy that this board sets. And I just want to be clear on that Brian goes there and do what this board set up as a policy. So please keep the VMS staff, out of the discussion, because the discussion is, do we want the court or not? And VMS staff will not make that decision. We have a committee here that previously worked on this issue, and they did the survey and all of that, and this board decided how it's been done, and they just enforce it. If that's not acceptable by the tennis club, last time I remember when this discussion was going on, the other side came in and they were discussing about the court system that they wanted. Now we hear the other side of it. I'm not saying who's right, who's wrong. We need to do the right thing for everybody, not, just listening to one side. If, for the pickleball, they decided, they don't want a court system. And they're happy. I play that. I go there, sign up my name, and play. But there was a strong, information from the tennis players that they want some court to be on the court. But if that's not the case, just please leave the VMS out of it. Let's committee decide what you guys want, and then we go from there. But that's my comment about the VMS, because a comment was made that VMS impose their own, regulation, and they don't. Thank you.
Elsie? Okay.
Boy, we've gone over this time and time again. And we pared down the amount of tennis courts that we use for the reservation system. And I thought that it had been decided. If I don't know what else we can do. There's a lot of people that like to use the reservation system. We have younger people coming in, 55 to 65, and they're more apt to use a reservation system, be familiar with computers and how to use them. And so we have to be fair to all. That's all I'm saying. And so paring it down to 3, I think was a fair assessment. Elsie, did you have something?
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to add to what Mrs. Horton just said. I don't know, Director Horton, Missy, Chairman, she has so many names. But there was, I heard I heard a whisper in some of these complaints about empty courts. And if I recall, and I'm sure I do recall it correctly, but I'd like to verify it with you, Brian, the amount of time, like if somebody makes a reservation to hold up a court or to reserve a court and then doesn't arrive, as I understand it, that court is available for anybody who wants it after a wait of how long?
It's 10 minutes.
10 minutes. So we've been through this and we've agreed, and apparently our agreements came to naught. And I'm sorry that the club feels that way, or some members of the club, but I don't know what to say.
Brian?
Yes.
Isn't this going to be evaluated again? Aren't we almost at the end of the 6 months that we agreed that we would
Yeah, at the
try
end of
this
this month.
pilot? At the end of this month?
Right.
So at that time, staff again is going to evaluate it. I don't know exactly how the details of that evaluation, but I've just been asking that the tennis club allow that time that was agreed on for the pilot, and then it's coming up to reevaluate, and all their input will be considered at that time, and then we can go forward with it. And that's the only thing that I ask. So,
Brian, is courts used for the tennis club all day long?
For the tennis club, I mean, we have three courts.
Does the reservation system accept reservations all day long?
Yes.
Okay. I want to say that this presentation here is the clearest I've seen on this issue since we've been here. And assuming the ballots are correct, that you say that the way the vote went, and maybe you should keep those ballots because there seems to be interest controversy. But at least this is the clearest I've seen. Maybe you can do the reservation system just for the congested hours. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense if the courts are always available. My personal opinion is for things like recreation and people come here to enjoy, the less interference we have from other people in the community, the better. That's just my thought. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Debbie and then Elsie.
I think I'm kind of with Reza and with Bunny on this. First of all, we've been evaluating this. We've heard from the tennis club multiple times. There's never going to be a time where everybody's happy and gets their way. That's just the nature. We have to be, as a board, we have to be fair, okay? And I think when we did this 6-month trial and we gave 3 courts to reservations and we left 7 courts, that was based on your 2/3, 1/3 pretty much. Let us finish our evaluation, as Bunny said before, and we've heard, we all hear you. This is good. Thank you for bringing this in, and we appreciate your perspective. But please don't blame VMS. That turns me off to your cause. To blame Brian and his staff who work so hard. So you guys were doing good until you did that with me. So just keep that in mind. Bunny spoke about civility and things like that. You guys have always been very respectful, and I appreciate that. You never raise your voice. You say your piece. You say it eloquently. But please don't try to say that VMS is doing their own thing. This ultimately is our board's decision. And, it comes through CAC. I was on CAC when this all first started, so I'm very familiar with this. But I think we need to let this play out. We'll evaluate it and make a decision then. And Bunny, I have a response to the other ladies when it's time.
And so do I.
Okay, thank you.
So is there any other questions for Brian? Or actually, you're not supposed to come up more than once, but I will allow it at this as an exception. Okay.
Thank you. I have 6 very short comments to the directors who spoke. First to Director Reza. As I mentioned, I came up with here almost a year ago 100 signatures in a most unusual act. Brian Gruner came up right behind me in open forum and declared that many people like the reservation system. I've never seen that before. Openly advocating for this system. This was VMS advocating for that system. Director Horton, in the meeting we had where we came to this agreement, you stated very clearly the survey was 50-50. Brian Gruner sat there silent while you made that statement. It was not 50-50. Closer to 2/3 of the players do not want it. 1/3 want it. The other comment was about what happens when a reservation court is not taken. After 10 minutes, somebody else can take it. But that never happens because they will take an open court. It just doesn't happen. For every 100 times, it might happen once. Please.
I'm sorry, I'm a little out of line, but the point is somebody's playing tennis on that court, right?
No.
Okay,
No.
so
If
we're not going to have a debate here. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
Regarding the agreement, we are going to wait for the full 6 months. You're not going to make a decision before that time. And we're all well aware of that. What bothers me most is how Recreation has abrogated that agreement. Abrogated that agreement by reserving courts from the 7 walk-on courts and giving reservations to certain people for certain times for their own purpose. It's true, 1/3 of the folks want reservations. Keep in mind, 2/3 do not. And what you're asking for is the 2/3 to acquiesce to the 1/3. To my mind, it's a lot simpler for the 1/3 to acquiesce to the 2/3. They have never tried it before. Maybe they should try it. And we can have 6 months where we have first come, first served for all the players. Civility. Director Gann, last time I sat here, Yvonne Horton, you were very, very unpleasant to me.
Okay, now,
And that's all I'm going to
we've
say.
got,
Thank you very much.
one of the rules of meetings is you don't name names.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
that's
excuse
very
me.
important. That's very important.
Excuse me, I was unaware.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. All right. All right, so are there any other,
Yeah, may I say something? And the club, tennis club, need to take some responsibility on this. Pickleball club, take that responsibility, talk to the members, and decided to drop it. You guys, the tennis club, need to take some responsibility on that. You guys playing tennis. I don't. You guys, you have a tennis club that you have members and you have all of that. Get with the club and tell us what you need on the, as a whole member of that club. I mean, we cannot just went back and forth between 30% and 60% and 90%. Pickleball club decided to drop it, and that was it, because they went with the majority. They said majority don't want it, we don't want it. It was done. Please also take that part of it with the club and see if you guys can do anything on the club side, rather than we have you and then next week we have the other group coming in and we just, going to have problem that way because we're never going to solve it. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Reza. So basically, this will be taken back to CAC, and like Brian said, is that this evaluation is coming up next month, and I have no doubt, because the way the boards and staff works is we work with the stakeholders. So we'll see what comes up. Do you agree with that, Brian? Okay, thank you. All right, so I want to first say something about the coming in and giving classes, okay? We do not hold classes where someone has a financial benefit, okay? That's the important thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many financial counselors want to come in here and teach you how to do finance, how to invest your money, and they want to do that because it's a financial benefit to them. So if you're coming in here because you want a financial benefit, then we cannot allow you to reserve a room. That's that. Okay. So, all right.
In all our references,
You have to come up to the microphone.
in all our workbooks and references that we use for our workshops, we don't endorse any particular company or product. We're talking about concepts. So that's the intention of the workshops.
Funny.
Okay, and Debbie?
You made one really important comment, though. Everybody who gives those workshops are licensed financial professionals. Sure. Senior citizens as a whole are trusting They come, they get a class from somebody, they trust them, and then after the class, they go back. Personally, I don't think this, I'm an educator. I provide all kinds of free education in this community right now. But my husband's a financial person. I would never expect to have him come in and give a free class because seniors trust who they work with in a class. I'm totally opposed to this idea, and I'm really sorry, but I just don't think it's going to work for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we just need to take it and discuss it more on the side because we have to abide by our policies. And she's right. You know, if there is a financial benefit to you in any way, then we would not be able to allow you to have a class. So.
Can I respond to the licensed professionals? That ensures that we're actually, for me, I took the financial planner role really late. I'm a software engineer, but I had to.
Can you come closer to the microphone?
Yes, so I'm a software engineer, and I had financial advisors, but joining this group, I realized how, I need to understand my own money. I still have my financial advisor, but the idea behind the workshops and me being a licensed professional is that I'm not talking out of step. That I actually, as a licensed professional, I need to do exams and certifications annually to make sure that we're in ethics or we're in line with what we're saying.
Can you answer a question then?
Okay.
Have you ever, has anybody after the class come to you for financial advice?
If they wanted to.
Okay.
If they had
That's the
additional
problem.
questions.
That's the problem. Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Are you a 501 organization? And where do you get your resources to provide this free service?
So we are a broker.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, we cannot sanction a broker coming here. It doesn't matter it's free lesson or not, dealing with the financial situation of our members because we just can't. Legally, we can't. I don't think we can.
No, we can't legally. No, we can't allow it. So, Elsie?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you're the same outfit, but I think it may be just a little bit ingenuous, or maybe you've been misled. But I went to something. In fact, I think it was the same outfit from the look of those brochures. A little get together at over down by the creek, and it was to make somebody happy. It was like, oh, you gotta come. So we went, and my husband and I were, pretty skeptical, but we were polite. And then ultimately, it was. Is there an opportunity after these workshops to go to other workshops and other classes?
It's a total of 6 workshops that covers
so
different topics.
You can just keep expanding your knowledge of the financial network. And as I recall, there was some cost involved in that. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but
no, there isn't.
No, sorry.
And it's especially if you're a broker, we cannot allow you to come in here.
We do these workshops virtually too, because in COVID, we couldn't gather. So I know the skepticism.
Believe me, I invest my own money. I have been to every kind of seminar you can even and workshop you can even imagine over the last 40 years. So I know what you're talking about, and I also know that there are so many people that want to come in and do this because they see this great big, 18,000 people that they can influence. But I have to tell you, Emeritus provides these kind of classes. And these classes that are being provided by Emeritus basically are not gaining any money from it. So I have to say again that as far as the president of GRF is that I cannot encourage this in our community.
Yeah, I went to many of these things. They actually give you free dinner. When I was younger, I had a lot of those dinners. But we like you, but I think legally we cannot do this. We appreciate your input, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but thank you very much.
Okay, Joan?
Have you approached emeritus for regular classes?
No, but we do this in churches. We've gone to the FBI. We've gone to universities, and
Right,
so,
but as far as we're concerned, a program from emeritus is legit, okay? And you could still do your program there if they allow that. And I appreciate the fundamentals you're presenting because we all need that.
Right.
But that's what emeritus does, is present that kind of thing for us. If we have a private organization coming in like this, we can't allow it. So I'm sorry.
okay,
Thank you, though.
And thank you for your presentation.
no problem. Thank you very
Okay,
much
I
for
think
And you're
we
very
need-
civil, thank you.
Are there any other comments? If there are none, we'll go forward to the consent calendar. So all matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended by action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such item shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. So the item is A, a recommendation from the Finance Committee, consistent with its statutory obligations, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed and approved preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of April 2022. By this vote, ratify that such a review be confirmed in this month's board member open session meeting minutes. Yes.
I move that we approve the consent calendar and the recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Second.
Are there any discussion? Is there any objections? So if there's no objections, the motion is approved by unanimous consent. So the next item of business is unfinished business. Okay, so we entertain a motion to cancel a duplicate bridge tournament room reservation rental rate, and this is the 28-day has already been satisfied. So Joan, would you like to read the resolution?
Yes. Resolution 90-22-XX. Duplicate bridge tournament room reservation rental rate. Whereas staff recommends to cancel and supersede Resolution 90-11-28, nullifying the exception rate during the annual February duplicate bridge tournament, and whereas from 2008 to 2011, the Duplicate Bridge Club was approved each year to hold an annual Bridge Unit 525 event on the second weekend in February at Clubhouse 7 in the Bridge Room and Main Lounge. And whereas on February 12th and 13th, the Duplicate Bridge Club logged 141 total guests in attendance for this year's tournament, equating to $705 in GRF guest fees collected. Staff anticipates annual receipt of up to $800 in guest fees from the tournament. And whereas on April 5th, 2011, GRF approved Resolution 90-11-28, accepting the annual Bridge Unit 525 event as an automatic annual rollover reservation, an exception to the permanent rollover reservation policy, and that the organization shall be charged the exception rate for use of the Clubhouse 7 Bridge Room and the Main Lounge as the event is booked on behalf of an outside organization. And whereas GRF approved Recreation and Special Events Department policy section regarding permanent rollover reservation states, the rollover must have a minimum of 4 identical reservations during the calendar year. All dates in the series must be for the same day of the month or week, such as first Tuesday or every Tuesday or whatever, at the same time and duration, and in the same room. No modifications. Date, time, duration, location, and so on are permitted. And whereas on January 13th, 2022, the duplicate bridge president approached the CAC and requested that the exception rate for their upcoming tournament, February 12th and 13th of 2022, be eliminated. The president expressed that the outside organization was no longer coordinating the event. Instead, the Village Duplicate Bridge Club is solely in charge of the tournament. It was also stated that the tournament would be held in the bridge room and the main lounge was no longer needed. And whereas on April 14th, 2022, the Community Activities Committee recommended and approved the use of the bridge room for the Duplicate Bridge Club tournament at no cost while continuing to collect the $5 guest fee. Now, therefore, be it resolved June 7th, 2022, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby agrees to cancel and supersede Resolution 90-1128 to show the cancellation of the exception rate during the annual February duplicate bridge tournament, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we accept this resolution.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, or are there any objections? There are no objections. Then the motion to cancel duplicate bridge tournament room reservation is approved unanimously. Thank you. So the next item is to entertain a motion to approve the broadband services connection fee, and we have satisfied the 28-day notification.
Reconnection fee.
Yes, reconnecting fee, yes.
Resolution 90-22-XX. Suspend cable internet in the event of disciplinary action. Whereas the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation is an association formed to manage a common interest development under the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act, GRF Articles of Incorporation, Article 11, and whereas the purpose of the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation is to develop and maintain facilities and services, bylaws 2.1.1, operate community facilities, bylaws 2.1.2, and operate as a common interest development in accordance with the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act in providing community facilities, bylaws 2.1.3. And whereas the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation has the power to adopt rules and regulations, including disciplinary procedures with regard to its mutual members and permitted and approved qualifying residents, co-occupants, tenants, and their guests, bylaws 2.2.3, and the authority to establish policy, bylaw 2.3. And whereas cable internet services for the mutual members, qualifying residents, co-occupants, tenants, and their guests are provided by way of a contract between the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation and a cable internet provider called Master Contract, and then a bulk service contract between the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation and the housing mutuals, which consists of Laguna Woods Mutual, 50, Third Laguna Hills Mutual, and United Laguna Woods Mutual. And whereas each of the housing mutuals bylaws empowers their respective boards to manage and govern property, facilities, and services, including the adoption of policies and rules, all in their bylaws. And whereas the Board of Directors acknowledges that cable internet is a jointly administered amenity of both the housing mutuals and the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation, now therefore be it resolved June 7th, 2022, that the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation Corporation and the Board of Directors of each of the housing mutuals each possess the power to take disciplinary action against their respective mutual members, including but not limited to the suspension of cable internet and internet services. And resolve further that upon the member rectifying the reason for suspension and cable internet services, the reconnection fee must be paid in advance prior to the reconnection of services. And resolved further that it is within the sole authority of the Golden Rain Foundation to negotiate the terms of the master contract, including but not limited to pricing and programming. And resolved further that it is the sole obligation of the Golden Rain Foundation to develop, maintain, operate, and/or repair the facilities necessary to provide cable internet for the mutual members, qualifying residents, co-occupants, tenants, and their guests. And resolved further that this resolution cancels and supersedes Resolution 90-17-38 to the extent that it differs. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move that we accept this resolution.
Second?
Who seconded? Debbie. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Yes?
Thank you. I can see they've rewritten it, and it's a little easier to understand that one part, but I remember a few years ago there was, how are we going to enforce, like if we say, if you don't do X, we're going to do Y. And then when your sentence is over, then we're going to restore whatever. Well, are we going to change all that wording so it says we're going to, in other words, this is like it's floating over here. It's not really a fine. It's a fee. I understand it's a reconnection fee. But are we sure about our enforcement capability? I mean, how can we not turn on their TV again after we said we're suspending you for 90 days?
If they don't pay the fine.
No, but say we've suspended them and they're back in compliance with whatever it is, right? I mean, nuisance, clutter, whatever it is. And we say, okay, this is your punishment, your penalty for not complying. And when you are in compliance, then we'll address it again. And then they're in compliance at the end of the 90 days. And so we said we were going to turn the TV back on. But now we're going to, I mean, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure of the enforceability of it.
Well, my thinking is they would have to pay the fee before they turn it on.
Siobhan has something to say.
Okay, Siobhan?
My understanding, and Eileen is down here as well, is that the compliance division will include a sentence in the letter that goes to the resident indicating they must pay the connection fee or reconnection fee before the service would be restored.
That satisfies me. Thank you.
All right.
Because that's new, right? That wasn't on the last go-round.
Correct. This is coordination with the compliance division.
Thank you. And this is written so I can understand it a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? If there is no further discussion, are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the motion to approve broadband services reconnection fee is approved by unanimously. Okay. So the next item is Interboard Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, Anti-Intimidation Policy and formation of the joint hearing body. So we had our 28 days to review, and staff and the presidents got together with all the questions, and they updated the policy code. So when you read the policy at this point in time, we would approve it, and then we would have to have another 28-day review. But I just want, Siobhan can talk to you about, what changes we made, but I just wanted to mention the fact that there were two other documents that were attached to this. And one is our process, and one was the schedule of fees. And so we need to revise that because it's in conflict with the policy that we are now approving. And the definitions, especially for the fees, does not coincide with our policies. So today, we're only going to vote on the anti-harassment policy. Okay, so Siobhan, do you have anything to say about that?
Sure. As President Carpenter mentioned, this is an inter-board policy, so it went before each of the boards in May, and they all offered their input. The GRF board itself asked us to add to the definition of governing documents the United Occupancy Agreement that was brought up from Director Skillman. That has been done. There was a question that was raised by a resident at your meeting about whether, if a board member is found guilty, this information will be made public. That can't be incorporated into this policy because that is prohibited by the civil code. So the comments made by GRF are incorporated in here. To give you an idea of what the other boards thought, on page 5 of 16, there was a request for clarification of what the investigative procedure would be. So that is redlined on, again, page 5 of 16. We made a notation on page 6 of 16 to the VMS anti-harassment policy, which is applicable to employees, to make it clear that employees do fall under a policy that is followed regularly. And then in terms of the charter, which is the second attachment, again, there was just some clarifying language on page 12 of 16. We defined the committee makeup a little bit better. That's a red line change there. And that's about the gist of it.
I have a question.
Okay, Joan has a question?
Before we read it, on page 12 of 16, the very bottom, they put in the event of a tie vote, the motion would fail pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order. Yes. What has that got to do with that paragraph?
You have 4 committee members. If it is a tie, the proposed discipline would fail, yes.
My question is, why is it in this?
Because they came up with at one of the other boards and they asked that
They
we
needed to
clarify
have
it, yes.
Okay, that's fine. That was all I wanted to know. Okay.
Are there any other questions? All right, so it looks like we have a few. Juanita and then Jim.
Madam Chair, I'm just a little confused on procedure here, because on our agenda, it says that this would be put on another 28 days.
That's correct.
28 days for comment is just that, comments and putting in, and then it has been voted to bring to this meeting for decision. We don't have to put it back on another 28 days. Why have the 28 days for comment and discussion if we're not going to include that in what we vote on after the 28 days? It seems to me we're just pushing it out another month, which we really don't have to do. There are no really substantive changes to the policy, and speaking personally, I am ready to vote on it today.
So usually when we extend another 28 days is based upon how much the policy is changed. Usually if it's just like editing and wordsmithing, then that's really what the review is for, but they made some substantial changes. So it would really be up to this board, I would think, if they don't want to extend that 28-day review and vote on it today.
If I may.
So, Joan.
If you just take a look regarding substantive changes, on page 5 of 16, where they took out staff will inform the committee of its receipt of such complaints, and put in the security department will investigate the complaint and will report its findings to the committee. That is a substantive change. So that they made that as one, and that's one of the reasons we just wait for the 28 days. Is there anything, there was another one. I think it's important to follow the rules on this, even though it delays it. I'm sorry. But that's the only substantive change I found.
But what do we expect in this next 28 days? that people are going to say, I don't like this, change it. I don't like this, change it, put this in or whatever. That's what the 28 days is for, and that's what has happened here on this 28 days. So
Joan, she's our expert on this type
Well,
of procedure.
it's been through all the other boards at this point. So their changes were made after our changes, or after our presentation. So in theory, that's supposed to be delayed 28 days because it's a substantive change. I'm just talking about the rules of David Sterling. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I think the changes are substantive, and I think they're worth another 28 days. And if we get additional substantive changes, then we'd go another 28 days. This is groundbreaking. I don't see why we need to rush it, because we're making some substantial progress in the harassment policy here, and we want to do it right the first time. So 28 days in the scope of the years that this should last is virtually nothing.
Okay.
Bonnie,
Risa?
this is supposed to be universal policy, and we have to have the buying of the other boards in order to make it.
Right.
If it doesn't become universal policy, we wasted a lot of time. So just giving it a time and doing it right, I agree with James that we probably have to give it enough time to do it right and make sure we have all the buy-ins. Because I know there is still some concern in other areas of the boards, and we need to clear that up. We need to get it done. We need to get it done right. Giving it time is not going to hurt us, actually going to help us to get this thing done right. And it's a very important policy.
Extremely.
So I think that we should do it that way.
So if there's no more discussion, would you read the resolution? Thank you.
Okay, resolution.
Oh, did you want to say anything more?
No, thank you. It was covered. Thank you.
Okay.
There is a resident that would like to speak via
We
Zoom.
have to make a motion on the resolution first, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Then we'll do it.
Thank you.
Resolution 90-22-XX, Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Policy and Charter of the Joint Hearing Body Committee. Whereas the Board of Directors of Golden Rain Foundation, United Laguna Woods Mutual, and Third Laguna Hills Mutual require a clear and consistent policy to address claims of harassment, abuse, and intimidation by directors to staff of Village Management Services, Inc., fellow directors and residents, as well as claims involving harassment, abuse, and intimidation by residents to staff of VMS directors and other residents. And whereas this anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy, known as policy, is intended to provide guidance relative to such behavior and issue a mechanism for addressing same by the Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Joint Hearing Body Committee. And whereas this policy is being adopted by the Board of Directors of GRF, United and Third, in the exercise of their respective duties to maintain, protect, and enhance the value and desirability of Laguna Woods Village and the interests of all its members. Now, therefore, be it resolved June 7th, 2022, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces the Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Policy and Charter of the Joint Hearing Body Committee as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution for the purpose of discussion and postpone its final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360.
Do we have a second?
Yvonne seconds.
Second, okay. And discussion, you said there was someone in the audience that wanted to make a comment.
Yes, it is Richard Rader. I'll pull him up right now. He's via Zoom.
Okay.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I have a couple of thoughts. This is an anti-harassment, anti-bias, anti-intimidation policy, as I understand it. Yet when I looked at the schedule of monetary penalties, it seems to be bringing in compliance issues. The penalties are for it lists golf course penalties, monetary policies for pet restrictions, traffic violations. I believe that compliance issues have to be separated from anti-harassment, anti-intimidation. So I'm wondering, why is this schedule of monetary penalties included here? A comment was made that there are privacy issues. No one wants to violate that. However, and I'm doing this from recall, so you'll have to help me here, but I think that Davis Sterling looked at privacy issues with regard to the residents. And if they violated something like compliance issues, they didn't want to make that public. That's understood. What we're faced here, and we all know this, there are board directors that commit egregious actions. And I would say to you that I've been in business for many, many years and faced many barriers, but I had advisors, and we always found ways to get around it. It just depends on how determined you are. You all know what the issues are in regard to some of the board members. And if you do not find some way to come up with, once somebody is violated anti-harassment, anti-intimidation, then the residents need to know that. How else are they going to vote? Because the only way residents know what to vote on is what a candidate says about themselves, either written or vocally. The things that I have seen when I was on a VMS board, some of the most egregious actions committed multiple times by the same individuals. You have to take this into consideration, take it to your lawyer, and find ways to make it public where it needs to be made public. I'm not talking about ordinary compliance issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dick. And I've heard this many times where people would like to have it public, but we are still bound by laws, and we have to abide by that. I don't know how to comment on that. I can just say that we are bound by laws, and so we cannot, as a board, make it public so to influence any kind of election. And that's what I hear you're asking for. So is anyone else want to make a comment on that? Okay.
Correct
Jim?
me if I'm wrong. I mean, those who know, doesn't Davis Sterling itself prohibit that?
I don't know which law it is. I just know that there is a law. I don't know whether it's corporate or.
We cite the civil code as being the prohibition, which would be Davis Sterling.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, I'm getting off track here.
Do you want me to address the monetary penalties?
Yes.
So there was a question from another board about procedure. So attachment 2 was added to outline the applicable disciplinary process for each board. So it's just to outline the process.
Information.
Yes.
Okay. Right. And I think I addressed it, that we are not to be influenced by these two documents and as far as passing this policy, and we will address them. We need to address them because they need to be modified. Okay. So is there any other comments? So if there's no other comments, are there any objections? So if there are no other objections, the interboard anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy and formation of the joint hearing body is approved and postponed for another 28 days. Thank you. So the next item is entertain a motion to move bus benches to improve pedestrian movement. So, Joan, would you like to read the resolution?
Resolution 90-22-XX, moving of bus benches to improve pedestrian movement. Whereas Laguna Woods Village has 266 bus benches located throughout the village that are used primarily by residents who utilize Laguna Woods Village transportation services. And whereas in December 2021, the General Services Department received a request to move bus benches that are obstructing the pathway of Vision Club members while walking on the sidewalks. And whereas pedestrian movement will be improved by moving the benches from the sidewalk to the adjacent grass area. And whereas on April 13th, 2022, the GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee recommended the board approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $97,625 to utilize contracted labor to install 40 current model green benches on adjacent grass areas. Now therefore be it resolved June 7th, 2022, that the board of directors of this corporation hereby approves a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $97,625 to be funded from the contingency fund for the relocation of 40 bus benches. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution.
Do you have a second? Any discussion? Discussion. Wow. Okay, let's see who was first. There was Jim, Juanita, and then Egon.
Yeah, this is just, I'm repeating a comment that I saw online here is, why do we call them bus benches? And there was a suggestion not to call them bus benches, but I guess keep it to just benches or something of that nature. It's just it's a slight change.
Okay, you said not to call them benches?
Yeah, we were calling, in the resolution, we're calling them bus benches.
Oh, okay.
And so someone objected to that terminology.
Oh, bus benches.
Just describing
Okay.
them as bus benches.
Okay, but they are basically just benches,
They're
not bus
benches, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Juanita?
Is that an amendment?
Yes.
It's important if we have to vote on it because it's it's throughout this.
Yes.
Even though it's a minor change. So are you making an amendment? I move
Yes,
to amend it
yeah,
to strike,
I
bus,
moved-
to
I-
strike
I moved
bus.
To strike bus
From
from the description.
All right, I second it.
Okay.
Now you have to vote on that.
Okay, so what do we do next?
You
then?
now vote on the amendment.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the
You just
amendment?
got an emotion from Jim and a
Okay,
second from
second it?
me.
I'll second
I
it.
seconded it.
Okay, so is
All
there
in
any
favor?
discussion?
No.
Then there would be discussion on the amendment.
Okay,
Yeah, because the bus benches, according to the code, require a covered patio type for the bus benches. These are just benches. These are not.
Oh,
If
that's
you
right.
designate that, then you have to spend more money to make it according to the code. That's why I agree with James.
he's right. A bus bench you'll find at Clubhouse 1.
Yes, those are bus benches.
These
Yeah.
are just benches, correct.
Okay, so Juanita, did you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been a lot of discussion about this and a lot of misinformation and just things that people don't really think about and know. We are not removing all benches. We are not removing the white benches that some people like. In almost every case, the white bench is already pushed back in its own little niche from the sidewalk. The only ones that we are relocating are those benches that are on the sidewalks.
Okay, that's point of order. This is on the topic. Are we going to strike bus or not?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what we're about. That's
Okay.
Just the amendment, it's okay.
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 I would agree to strike bus.
Okay. And-
Yeah, we strike bus for the reason that Karini mentioned, because obviously the bus bench, like that's the Stater Brothers there, you've got to have that glass cover and all the other paraphernalia that goes with it. Plus, there are benches that are being moved that are not anywhere where buses run, like down by the creek. So there's, so just get rid of the word and we're done.
Okay, is there any objections to the change to strike bus?
None.
If there are no objections, then the amendment to strike bus is approved unanimously. Okay, thank you, Joe. All right, so do we have to go back to the
Now,
original?
you just a vote on the
On the
amended resolution, amended
Yes.
resolution.
Okay, so now we need to vote on the resolution,
The amended resolution.
the amended, I thought we just did that.
You just
Okay.
amended it.
I'm sorry. All right. Do you have questions or?
Well, I do have a question. I just wanted to make sure everybody is in agreement that the amendment that we just passed, striking bus, is not substantive enough to put it on another 28 days.
It's not.
No, it isn't. No, it's just a minor correction. It's not a substantial change.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So,
James,
Yeah, I just want to give, I think everybody sees it on their screen now. I just want to give credit to Lillian Isaac for bringing that subject up about the buses.
all right. Thank you. So now we need to make a
vote.
A vote
We have the
on the
vision clock.
original amendment. Are there any objections to the original amendment?
No,
I mean,
the original.
the original resolution. Thank you. If there are no objections, it's approved by unanimously. Okay, we got through that one.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the next item I'm very excited to hear about, okay? So it's to discuss clubhouse maintenance programs. So Manuel, will you come up and tell us all about it?
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning, members of the board. At your meeting last month, you asked us to go back and review our maintenance practices and for clubhouses and facilities. And this morning, I'd like to give you an update on where we are in that analysis and give you a few items to consider, maybe discuss, and give us some direction on any further that would help continue the work that we're doing in that effort. So I have a few slides I want to share with you. This first slide has a inventory. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. This is an inventory that our staff put together of our existing clubhouses, and I asked them also to include the village greens and the community center, because those are a couple of facilities that many of our residents and members frequently visit. And as someone who's still relatively new to the village, I'm going to use that as long as I can. I've been here now, I think, 8 months, going on 9, but at least until the year mark, I'm going to try to continue with that. So I have had the opportunity to visit almost all of these facilities, so I'm a little bit familiar with them. But our staff who helped me put this together is extremely familiar with them. And you can see that most of our facilities are in the range of about 25,000 square feet on average. We do have Clubhouse 6 that's substantially smaller, just under 7,000 square feet. Clubhouse 1, just under 42,000 square feet. And then the largest facility is our community center, the 3-story building that we're in here, just a little over 66,000 square feet. But if you take out that Clubhouse 6 and you take out Clubhouse 1 and the community center, the remainder of our facilities and the other clubhouses, on average, are about 25,000 square feet. The oldest facility that we have, based on our as-built records, is Clubhouse 1, which is approaching a 60-year-old facility mark. Those of you that are familiar on the East Coast will say that's a relatively new building, because on the East Coast we have a lot of buildings that are a lot older than that. In California, particularly in Southern California, the industry standard is that tends to be a building that's probably ready to have some rehab work. That's just the difference of how buildings are constructed and how the climate affects buildings. And then, of course, there's been a lot of discussion about seismic impacts on buildings. Your newest facility is the one that the Village Greens across the way here. According to our records, that's approaching the 15-year mark. And then you can see the time frame for the other buildings in between. The next slide shows you some of the exterior components that we maintain. So this is the outside of these facilities. We have identified here items such as, for example, the roofs on the buildings. Most of the facilities have tile roofs. Routine maintenance or preventive maintenance is scheduled currently on an as-needed basis. And over on the right, I included in that column what routine maintenance means to us, what we're doing now. So, for example, in the roof category, we, on an as-needed basis, will remove any debris that may be accumulating on the roofs. We will repair roof leaks as they are identified, but we don't really do any routine maintenance other than when it comes time to replace the elements. So in the case of roofs, the useful life for a tile roof is between 30 and 40 years, and so that's why it's listed the way there. If you look at exterior paint on your clubhouse facilities, currently we paint the exterior of the buildings on an average about a 15-year cycle. Typically when we're in the adjoining neighborhood, painting the manors, we'll include the clubhouse that's in the close proximity to that with that. We do as-needed work on such as patching surfaces or taking care of cracks on an as-needed basis. But generally, building on the exterior painting is done roughly on a 15-year cycle right now. Some of the other things we've included here are parking lot paving, and you can see the years and the replacement years on that listed on the slide. The only thing we do on a more frequent basis is the seal coating. We do a seal coating of your parking lots every 7 years, and the useful life on those is about 60 years. And about every 20 years, we do have to go in and do a reconstruction. That's where we kind of take care of any areas that maybe are rutting out, potholes, cracks, that type of thing. Outside furniture is cleaned twice a month by our custodial services staff, and replacements are done as needed. The capital plan that the GRF has funding to replace furniture on about a 10 to 15-year cycle on an as-needed basis. And then exterior signs and exterior lighting, as indicated there, are maintained and replaced as needed. The life expectancy and cycle on those is 15 years for signs, 30 years for lighting. So those are the elements that I've included for exterior programs, but if there are any others that the board would like us to get information on, we're happy to take that input and get you that detail. I think the real crux of what the board was interested in, though, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was the interior of the buildings. What are we doing inside the clubhouses to keep them looking as new as possible and in a condition that our residents can enjoy? So on the next slide, we have a partial listing of the interior elements of the facilities. And so we've identified first the flooring. We have 3 different types of flooring covers inside of our clubhouses. There's carpeting, we have wood, and we also have tile. So right now, all of the flooring in our clubhouses are maintained on an as-needed basis. And the routine type of maintenance that we do is, in addition to our custodial staff doing the vacuuming that they do as part of their weekly service, we do have funding in our operations budget to address stains in the carpets, stains on the wood floors or the tilings. We do have funding in operations to handle any damage that's done. If a particular piece of carpeting has been torn or ripped, we have funding to be able to go repair that on an as-needed basis. The only thing that we really do other than that on a routine basis is the grout in the tile floors. That is on a set schedule to re-grout on a 10-year cycle, and that's currently included in your capital plan, in the 30-year plan of your capital. Windows are cleaned and repaired on an as-needed basis with a replacement cycle of on 50 years. Other than the mechanical parts of a window, mechanical parts are replaced as needed if they're damaged or broke or no longer working. And then your window coverings are repaired and cleaned as needed and on a replacement cycle in your capital plan on a 15-year cycle. The next slide has some additional interior elements that we currently have identified for your consideration. Ceiling tiles in all of our facilities are repaired and cleaned as needed. They're on a replacement cycle of 25 years. And then as you can see there, furniture, inside furniture, chairs, tables, that type of thing. Signage, such as the emergency signs, exit signs, things of that nature, and lighting are all on an as-needed repair and maintain service with the replacement years identified there in the column for those. I want to focus this morning on paint because that is one area where our staff has identified potentially that the board may want to discuss and consider if you want to make changes there. Interior of our clubhouses currently are painted on an as-needed basis through your capital program. We do fund every 25 years to go in and do the interior painting right now, but we do have funding through our operations budget to go in and paint. If one of these walls, for example, was to be damaged, or if as a result of changing the wall hangings, the fixture, the paintings, for example, on the wall, we'll come in and do the paint, but it's not the full facility. That's only done on a 25-year cycle. So on the next slide, I have identified potentially, if the board was interested, for example, let's just talk about paint for now. If the board was interested in increasing the frequency of how often we paint the interior of our clubhouses, here's a few options for us. We can look at painting every facility, and again, there's 9, the 7 clubhouses and the other 2 facilities. In order to do that on a 5-year cycle, in other words, every clubhouse would get a full, fresh coat of paint internally every 5 years. We have a very preliminary budget estimate. Remember, the buildings are all different sizes, but on average, we're looking at about $750,000 a year to paint every clubhouse every 5 years. And so there we would probably do 2 a year. We would put them together in a manner based on their square footage so that we get the best price for that service. We would have to do this with contract services. Our in-house paint crews are already at capacity with the painting of the manors. So this would be an external services contract that we could do. If we wanted to change it from the current 25 years to a 10-year cycle, we're suggesting that would be somewhere in the neighborhood about $500,000 a year. And then the 15-year cycle would be more in the neighborhood of $350,000 a year. Again, these are estimates based on our paint crew staff that gave us. If the board was interested in pursuing this as something that you wanted to see us look at in more detail, then we would then probably go out and talk to some paint contractors and get some more specific and more detailed cost estimates. So just to give you an example, these estimates are based on a price of about $20 a square foot. When you go in to paint a facility such as the clubhouse or the community center, it's a very labor-intensive process. the painter contractor would come in and first remove all of the fixtures that are on the walls. So things like the television screens here would have to be removed, as would the brackets that are supporting them. The very nice lettering behind you, for example, would have to all be taped up to make, or removed in order to paint that. So there's a lot of removing of wall fixtures, things like electrical plugs, things of that nature. It's very labor intensive. And when you're looking at, for example, here, a 66,000 square foot building, 3 floors, it tends to adds up. A lot of furniture that would need to be relocated. In this, for example, in this room, we simply would cover up with a tarp the dais that you're sitting on in here. But over here, for example, that cabinet would have to be taped up and covered in order to protect that from getting painted. Some of the offices and some of the community centers, furniture would have to be pulled away from the walls, so that there's a lot of labor involved in that. And then depending on the colors that we're using, that's when we would have an opportunity with input from the board to decide if they wanted to change the color of something. So if we have a dark wall like we have at the front and the back, and we wanted to change that, then that's going to require a primer and maybe 1 or 2 more coats. If we're simply painting over a white wall with white paint, that's going to be a little bit less. But then again, so it really depends on the facility and what we're wanting to do there. So the last slide I have is just some other buildings that are in the village that I have not included in the presentation here, but just to remind you that there are other facilities throughout the village that the board may want to just keep in the back of your mind as you go through. I know we're focusing just on clubhouses as part of this discussion, but I wanted to give you that information so you would have it. So with that, Madam President, that completes my presentation. So I would, our next steps would be to go back and, based on board input, either expand the list of components, both exterior and interior. If there's something that you think that we should include on the list, we can go back and get some information on that. And then just some feedback on whether paint, for example, is something you're interested in doing more frequently, but maybe you're also interested in doing some of the other components here that we talked about more frequently. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this morning. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so we'll start with Juanita.
Excellent presentation. My only problem is we don't have it in our packet. You gave us great information, but I'm trying to make notes, and we go from slide to slide, and if I'd had it in my packet, I could have made my notes on the specific things that I thought it was. So if we can have that printed and put in our boxes. I know this is oral discussion. We don't have a motion up for it, but before we can do any of that or give you our input, we really need the wonderful information that you've given us here today.
We'll make sure that the board receives a copy of our presentation this morning.
Thank you. Okay, who was next? Jim?
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. I was a little confused on a couple of the charts where it said routine, and then when it said frequency, it said, we don't have it in front of us.
Maybe go back to slide 4.
Yeah. It says routine versus as needed. So it describes something as routine scheduled maintenance and as needed. And then on the far right, it says routine scheduled maintenance and then describes what it is.
Yeah.
So there's not routine to it. It's only as needed.
Thank you. So I had the same question working with staff on this, so that's why I included that last column.
Yeah.
That last column was our attempt to explain what routine meant. So routine is if there's stains on the carpet, we will take care of those whenever they appear as needed. And we do that with the current funding that we have now in our operations budget. We have a contingency amount for those type of services. Repairing damaged areas, again, that in our mind is routine and is done as needed.
Got it. So if I would describe that in terms of real work, it would be that when someone is vacuuming, if they notice a stain,
yes,
that would be routine then to go clean that stain. So
correct.
vacuuming is a routine maintenance, and if they notice some, I'll call it some long-term fixes, they will fix that too.
Correct. Thank you. That's a very good example of it. Our custodial contractor does the vacuuming. If they and then through their supervisor's inspection, if they start noticing that a particular piece of flooring, whether it be carpeting, is starting to look a little worn down, or it's torn, then they will report it, and then we'll have our maintenance and construction group come in and make those repairs. Really, I think what we're trying to focus on here is how often do you want to replace the carpeting, though? Right now, it's on a 10-year replacement cycle, but is the board interested in having that more frequent or longer frequent?
I'm not sure. What I was looking for was what is the routine maintenance that you would recommend that would prolong the life of the buildings and the equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So in my mind, that's what I was looking for, rather than how often do we paint and what do we want. I was looking for a recommendation of what, based on your expertise, what do we actually need to prolong the life and use of our facilities.
So right now, in answer to that question, Board Member Hopkins, right now, the current cycles that we are using is what we would recommend we stay on. The only one that I'm thinking may warrant some consideration is the interior paint. That's where we spend most of our time doing patch-up work, spot painting, that type of thing.
And just last question. Does the contractor have instructions to give you a report on a regular basis of those areas where they notice need to be fixed? Is there a report that's generated by that contractor as part of his contract?
I don't know if there's a written report prepared or how the custodial contract is set up, but I can find out and get back to you on that.
Okay, I don't want to ignore any of you over there. Debbie, and you'll want to make a comment, and Joan. Okay, so, and we'll just go around the table here. Okay.
So to Jim's point, in the commercial world, in a high-use building, there must be standards for these things. I mean, we had some very long periods of time on your charts, which were great. Thank you so much. But I'm interested in what is best practices in this, in a commercial environment and a high-use environment. That's one thing I'd be interested in. Another thing is I'll use the PAC as an example. So, there's a crossover between maintenance and landscape. Well, there's been some significant issues with some landscape in the front of the PAC. Who would be responsible to notice that and have that rectified? Because there's dead plants and they've been there for months. Is it because it may not be something they don't have to come on a regular basis for landscape to cut or trim or any of that, because it's maybe flowers or shrubbery or something that normally you would just plant? Who would be, because landscape may not be actually, that may not be on their radar. So, but it may be that maintenance would see that. Is there a process in place to report that? Because one of the things that has started this whole conversation, in my opinion, having been on the Clubhouse Renovation Committee, is that the clubhouses look run down. They just look run down. And it's great that we do an as-needed thing, but I think as a board, we're looking for a process to make sure that they don't look run down, that we fix them up, get them nice looking, and keep them nice looking for the future, so we don't get in this predicament that we're in now with Clubhouse 1 particular. I'm using that as an example because that's high profile.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm headed with this, is I'd like to know like best practices, and then I'd also like to know, what is the process for reporting when they do see something, and how long is the typical fix till the time it's reported, till it goes through a process?
The best practices on a commercial office really depends on the property owner. You have your high-end buildings, for example. As many of you know, I used to work for the city of Irvine. The predominant landowner there for office is Irvine Company. And I can tell you that I know that they replace their interior elements of their office buildings every 3 years. They also have the highest office rental rates in the county. A more, let's say, regular schedule on a commercial office where maybe around the surrounding community here in Laguna Hills probably does it closer to what I'm showing here. And a lot of times it's based also on when a tenant is turning over. Because typically, similar to your residential units, a new tenant coming into a commercial space will make that part of their new lease. The owner will come in and paint everything, maybe change the carpeting, that type of stuff.
Okay, and in the process of reporting when they see something?
Hopefully our landscape crews are picking that up, but we really appreciate and rely heavily on the supervisors at the clubhouses. The clubhouse supervisors are our most frequent, and they do a great job of reporting things to us when they feel that things have maybe gone beyond the point of where they need to be taken care of. I really commend them for that. They're not shy about asking, and that's who we rely on. And what we can do maybe is just send out a reminder to all of our staff at those clubhouses. I know some of them are a little understaffed right now, but just a reminder that they have to really help be our eyes out there for maintenance issues.
Okay, Egon, you're next.
Yeah, I had a question on painting. You said the base number you use is $20 a square foot. So are you talking about the square footage of the room, the floor square footage?
For paint, the walls.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're using the square footage is not the walls. The square footage is the square footage of the room.
Right. So
Okay.
a building that's 25,000 square feet, for example, at $20 a square foot is going to be about $500,000.
Okay. Thank you.
I have several, and one is 15 years for outside, because I was on the third board.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 10 years, and then we moved it to 15 years because we had too many dry rot problems. And then the third board went ahead and moved it back to 15, and we have dry rot problems. Okay, and I can show you pictures, even with my unit, how that is an issue. So my question is 15 years. Even though the paint is warranted for then, it's not good for all areas. So I question that exterior time frame. So the other part, inspections. I think inspections basically have to be part of this program. So, and this was one of the things that we wanted to incorporate into our management agreement that never has not come down and finalized. But one of the big issues was inspections and how often does staff, go around and inspect all the buildings, inspect and see what needs to be done. And basically, I think the inspection would be a really good program so that you can bring it to the boards and basically say, based upon our inspection report, we see that, we need to do something here. Because that's what we want to see from staff. So on the other thing, as far as your question, about landscaping, okay, I have to tell you that many, many times in a lot of the improvement programs and everything that we've had, landscaping gets forgotten. And so I'm wondering if they have a program that where they inspect and come back and report, to the boards for any changes that need to be made, especially like the PAC. Does landscape do that inspection? I think that should be part of this program also. So that's all I have to say, and we'll go on to the next one here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with you about a schedule of inspections is what we're after. For example, So the roofs need, it's an as needed. Well, there should be a scheduled inspection of the roofs and a scheduled inspection of the floors and a scheduled inspection so that we know. I worked for the LAUSD for a long time, so as you know, all the gym floors every year are redone. All the hallways are resurfaced. It's not, it's once a year, it's a whole Megillah. I'm not saying that we want to do it that much here, but Clubhouse 5 gets a lot of use, for example. And the other thing, as far as painting is concerned, I think it's less important than looking at window coverings. There's a lot of complaints about it not being dark enough or not being able to darken it, or this is broken and it doesn't get reported. So routine inspections, really scheduled inspections, I think it's very important. Thank you.
Okay. Ariza.
Thank you. There's a lot of things that you put in the report, but I'm going to go back and emphasize on the things that have been said. The inspection and routine maintenance. I remember when we were working in the facility, we had a corridor that the floor needed to be maintained for the AVs, the automated vehicles. And the routine maintenance for that was every month we have to paint the floor to make sure that the AV can move through the corridor. In 2 weeks, we realized that we have a lot of accidents with the AVs hitting the walls. And because we didn't inspect it, because it was monthly, when we inspected, we realized that the AVs taking the paints off and the vehicles are not working with the sensors anymore and hitting the walls. So the inspection was critical that we missed. And the routine maintenance for that was that those areas need to be more frequently covered and painted. For us, for example, in the clubhouses, we have areas that are highly trafficked.
Right.
So the carpet, or the wood in those areas is going to be worn out. The inspection will help us to maintain those areas rather than doing the whole clubhouse. We just maintain the areas that are high traffic and maintain those areas because we don't have to, do all the woods and all the carpets. But if we treat the carpets on more frequent basis, just for the areas that are frequently used, then we extend the life of those carpets and flooring and things like that. Those are the things I think the intention of this board is to realize what we can do on the maintenance inspection side to increase and improve the life of facilities that we have. I think that's what we understand. All the other, facility, for example, I don't think we're going to, 75 years for the wood flooring. It must be pretty good wood from, Amazon. But, if a high traffic area, you probably have to change that every 20 years anyway. So unless you protect it.
Yeah.
I think that's my point, that what we're looking for is how we're going to extend the life of the equipment and facilities. Thanks.
So I appreciate that input and that feedback. I will work with our assistant director, Ian Barnett, who oversees our maintenance programs. I know that if we don't have, I'm going to assume that we already have an informal inspection, but what I'm going to ask Ian to work with our managers is to put together a formal facility inspection program. We started doing it here at the community center. General Services Director Robert Carroll and I actually walked all 3 floors of the community center a couple of months ago and made notes of the type of things that we would like our staff to be looking out for. I think we can work. I can have Ian work with our maintenance managers to put together a formal facility inspection program, and that will go a long way to address some of the concerns that you've raised here today. And wholeheartedly agree, we should focus on those high traffic areas, those high visibility areas, and we can go ahead and make that the next step in our process here. In addition to the other things you've talked about. President Carpenter, I would like to just mention on the exterior paint program. Just remind the board that most of our facilities, our clubhouses, are stucco exterior.
Okay.
So it's not like the wood that has the tendency. There's trim and there are wood components to it, but this paint cycle is really tied more to the stucco part of it. But I'll go back and refine that based on each facility, based on how much wood each has in terms of trim and
that would
stuff.
be great. Okay. Okay, Debbie?
Yeah, I was thinking as we were talking, so you know how right now we have the lighting and the interior and exterior lighting and replacement. You know, a lot of these things are really, really old. So we go and we replace it with a like fixture. Is there a process or a thought about if there's I don't know how to put this, about, you know, just energy savings, LED lighting, changing out lighting. We've done it with some of the buildings, but I'm thinking that when it comes time that we have some broken fixtures and stuff, that we look at the age of the overall fixtures in this facility and see if we have an option to upgrade to something that's more energy efficient or something like that, because I feel like that we might just be doing like a Band-Aid. And we need to look long-term for stuff that's going to carry us into the future.
Okay.
So that's all. The kids popped into my head.
I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? So, Manuel, what you're taking away from this is the information that we provided you in addition, that we would like added to the program. So what is the time frame that you'll be able to come back?
I will try again to come back next month.
Okay.
I understand this is a priority for the board, so I will try again to come back next month with more information on how we address landscaping deficiencies around our clubhouses, and with a little more detail on our facility inspection program. I'll try to get you more details on that.
I really appreciate that, because it's, as long as I've been on the board, which is almost 8 years, not with GRF, but 8 years on the board, inspections was always a question for us.
The other thing I made a note of here, I want to be sure that you know that we are hearing you, is come back with a little more information, more definitively on commercial best practices for some of these things. We'll be sure to get that.
Okay, so you have a question?
We have a resident speaker on Zoom who's
Okay.
requesting to speak, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I have a question. Per square foot, why does it cost so much more to paint a clubhouse than a home? I have homes painted, and if you compare the square footage to painting that of a home, $750,000 for 2 clubhouses seems rather excessive, when I would expect that you would get economy of scale from the amount of paint that you would be buying. So I don't understand why clubhouses would cost so much more, because it seems like the prep work for the biggest labor is in the prep work, and then after that putting things back. But once the prep work is done, the spray painting is really quick. And that's what I was told was preferable, because it's very smooth when you spray paint. So I don't understand why painting 2 clubhouses would cost $750,000. Thank you very much.
I don't know how to answer that. Do you want to?
Well, simply again, just to, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, we haven't received any detailed cost estimates from a contractor yet. We simply try to provide you with a kind of a magnitude of cost to just give you a feel for it. You know, are we talking $50,000 a year, or are we talking $500,000 a year? And so I just wanted to give you a sense of what that was. We can get more refined cost. For example, if the board said, hey, get me some more refined cost on what it would cost to do a 10-year cycle, then we can go ahead and do that. We just didn't have, in the time putting this together, we just didn't have time to to go out and get
No,
those
appreciate it.
detailed cost estimates.
No, I really appreciate the work that you're putting into this. Jim?
Yeah, and I think we understand they're rough estimates, and you go by square footage and all the other traditional things. So I appreciate the effort. It gives us a range.
Yeah.
We're not making a decision from cost at this point. We're really looking at a regular maintenance schedule by which we have visibility to things that are going wrong, and also regular repairs or regular maintenance that keeps us from replacing every 15 years. Maybe regular maintenance replaces every 12, 20 years. We just don't know.
And I can feel Brian pulling at my jacket behind me, just to remind me that all of our clubhouses do have a lot of activities in them.
Right.
So if we're going to go in and do, whether it's carpet replacements or whether it's painting, we do need to take that into consideration. There's probably a little bit of a cost associated with restricting when the contractor would have access to the facility, unless we're going to completely shut down a facility, for a week or two while they do the work. So.
Yes.
I heard you, Brian.
No, I agree. Elsie, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to address what Lei Ling said, and I understand her concerns. But as I understood that $750,000 was like more of a budget reserve capital allowance kind of thing, right? Wasn't an actual pricing out.
Correct. Correct.
We just use these. I mean, that's what that $750,000 was, correct?
Correct. What a lot of organizations do that have multiple facilities like this is they will budget, some even set up like a facility fund separately. Right now, all of this cost would come out of our reserve account, and then you would replenish that reserve account as needed. But another option, and might warrant, I haven't talked to finance staff yet about this, but we could set up a facility account where you put in X number of dollars every year. That kind of smooths it out. My experience is that, unfortunately, typically during rough budget years, that's usually the first account that gets tagged. So we can have that discussion about how we fund it once we get a better sense of what is it you'd like us to put together as a frequency.
And a better number of how much.
All right, is there any other questions? So if there's no further questions, I want to thank you.
Look forward to coming back next month and provide you with some more information on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to new business.
The update of committee
yes.
appointments.
I'm sorry, you're right. We have the committees. Committee appointments. So first of all, we need to make a motion to accept the committee appointments, and then we need to make the changes, right? Yeah, okay. So should I have a motion to accept the GRF committee appointments? Okay, you second it? All right, discussion. So the things that need to be changed based upon recent events is to remove Robert Muchnick and also Lynn Jarrett from the committee assignments. And so there are several areas. Strategic planning is Robert Muchnick. Community activities is Lynn Jarrett. And media and communications, there's Lynn Jarrett.
Information tech.
Oh, information.
Lynn Jarrett.
Yes, right. The website committee was Lynn Jarrett. Broadband ad hoc committee.
Landscape committee, Lynn Jarrett.
Right. And
I did.
And then purchasing ad hoc was Robert Muchnick. And then he was also on the insurance ad hoc committee. And we always invite these people to be advisors if they like. So those are the changes. Are there any other, yes, Rita?
I understand that's a special case right now that we're changing, but I just really want to make sure that when the committee get assigned to someone, they have enough time to work with the committee, because these continuous changes really doesn't help the committees, because every time you turn your head, there are new people there, and either you have to educate them or they don't know. I mean, there is a lot of, missed opportunity to get things done in a proper way. So if people from other boards or this board get assigned to the committee, they have to commit for at least a period of time to be on that committee to be useful.
Right.
And the continuous change is going to cause, a lot of problem for the committee chair, for the decision-making process, and doesn't help anybody. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jim?
Let me just say, I agree with you fundamentally. And what we've done, at least with several of the committees that we have, is to basically engage those new people and give them some homework so that they bring themselves up to speed. I mean, we're all volunteers. We know we're going to have to put some time into this and some effort. And so it's going to be up to that committee member, that new committee member, to bring themselves up to speed as much as the committee to welcome them and give them all the information that they require. So it's a two-way street there.
That's true. Are there any other suggested changes? Are there any objections? So, do you want to go ahead and
What do you want me to do?
read the resolution then with the changes?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, these are the new GRF committee appointments. Resolution 90-22-XX. Resolved June 7th, 2022, that the following persons are hereby appointed and ratified to serve on the committees of this corporation. Under Strategic Planning Committee, eliminating Robert Muchnick from 3rd. Under Community Activities Committee, eliminating Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Under the Equestrian Committee, no change. Under Finance Committee, no change. Under Information Technology, ITAC, eliminate Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Under Landscape Committee, eliminate Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Maintenance and Construction Committee, no changes. Under Clubhouse Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, no changes. Under Media and Communications, eliminate Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Under Website Ad Hoc Committee, add Anthony Liberatore from United, and Azar Asghari is alternate for United. Eliminate Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Under Broadband Ad Hoc Committee, eliminate Lynn Jarrett from 3rd. Under Mobility and Vehicles Committee, add Ralph Engdahl from 3rd. Oh, sorry. No changes to Security and Community Access Committee. Disaster Prep Task Force, no changes. Laguna Woods Village Traffic Hearings, no changes. Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee, eliminate Robert Muchnick from 3rd, add Mark Laws from 3rd. Select Audit Task Force, no changes. Insurance Ad Hoc Committee, eliminate Robert Muchnick from 3rd, add Mark Laws from 3rd, add Jim Cook from 3rd. And those are the changes that are made. Resolution 90-22-22, adopted April 3rd, 2022, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution. There's already a motion on the floor to accept this resolution, so we accept it as changes are made. As per the changes made. Okay, well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, a committee appointment as corrected is approved. Thank you. All right, so the next item is new business. And we entertain a motion to approve the replacement of stop signs throughout the community. And this will require a 28-day review. So, Eric?
Resolution? Gonna have that first.
Right, Madam President and members of the board. It's good to be here, and I think it's our second day together. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too.
And before you, in this very small package and no PowerPoint presentation, it is really about purchasing 21 stop signs that are going, and you'll see in the package that there is a map indicating at the very end, indicating in little red dots that are a little bit hard to see, but it'll indicate where the stop signs are expected to be placed. But you have another page that narratively at least tells you where those intersections are at. And this went before our SCAC, obviously, a month before, or in April. And we're recommending that 21 stop signs be purchased, and the cost of those stop signs are on, I believe, page 4 of your report, and it'll tell you that that altogether it's going to be $42,913. That's an estimate of those costs for these stop signs. There's the reason for this truly is to gain higher visibility. We know that we write about 500 stop sign violations last year, which is not good, right? Because the fact that there may be a broadside impact or even pedestrians that are crossing at these intersections where we've written these stop sign violations. So in order to bring more visibility to the stop sign, we have these flashing stop sign violations that are LED, light emitting diode, and they're solar powered. And because they're solar powered, they have a lifespan, as well as the LEDs, of about 10 years. And what we're trying to do, like I said, is enhance the safety of our pedestrian and vehicular traffic through our property, and as well as looking at this. And it doesn't say it's a pilot program, but really at 21 stop signs, when we have well over 250 in our community at the village, it's less than 10% of the amount of stop signs. So what we're looking to do is implement this program, monitor it, first 6 months, year, and see how effective they are, and any kind of complaints that we may get about the stop signs as well. And I know that some people have expressed concerns over being at nighttime, how bright they're going to be, and do they turn off at night? They don't. That's why they're there, to illuminate, and they also illuminate during the day, so that there's more visibility. So with that really completes my report, and I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Okay. I'll have you read the resolution.
And then we ask him questions.
And then we'll ask the questions.
Don't go away.
I won't.
Resolution 90-22-XX, replacement of stop signs. Whereas the Golden Rain Foundation, JRF, through the Security Division, desires to increase stop sign visibility and safety within the community, and whereas 21 solar-powered stop signs would be placed at intersections throughout the community with the intention of increasing visibility and safety, and whereas the Security and Community Access Committee has recommended the installation of solar-powered stop signs at specific locations throughout the community. Now therefore be it resolved on date to be. The Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves installation of solar-powered stop signs with an appropriation of $42,913 to be funded from the equipment fund, And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution for discussion purposes at this time and postpone our final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360.
I will second it.
You have a second it? Okay, discussion. Do we have any questions? Jim?
Okay. First, I do believe this requires financial endorsement, so.
You know what? I just checked in here. That's one of the things I was looking.
Yeah.
And
So we can, if we can put this on the agenda for, I guess, is it on the agenda?
Isn't there a financial endorsement right here?
That's the security.
That's SCAC.
It says, okay, it says add April, entertain a motion to approve replacement. It says endorsement to the board.
Right, I don't, yeah, I know it was discussed it was on the table with the committee.
Right.
I know I got wind of it at the last financial meeting. So I'm pretty sure it has not actually been discussed at the finance meeting. But that's not a problem. That's a procedural thing, and I think, we've got a meeting coming up June, so it's in between. So I don't like to do it in reverse, but it's one of those things where if the board can make the decision, we can then do the finance endorsement. So it's more technical and procedural than anything else. In my comment, I'm not against it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that it goes through the right process.
And you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do have a couple of questions, and it's more technical. What is the efficacy of the lit stop signs? Is there statistical evidence? I mean, we're spending $45,000, and we hope to get something out of it. But is there anything that says we're likely to get something out of it in terms of extra safety, et cetera, other than the emotional argument? If I see it, I'm going to pay attention to it. Because I see stop signs every day. And I happen to be one of those that got stopped when I was here early in the village and got my ticket and went to school. But yeah, I'm a good citizen. And the first one you have here is the corner where I live and where I got stopped. So it's dear to me because since then I stop, and people don't stop because in their head they did stop because it was clear when they rolled through. So I guess my question is, what evidence do we have that people will adhere to this more than a normal stop sign?
Certainly. The only real data that we get, because National Traffic Safety Administration, as well as Department of Transportation, doesn't keep data like that in terms of the stop signs being electrified with lights. And so the data that we get is only provided through the various vendors that actually sell those products and keep the stats from the cities or counties in which they were used. And I think there was a 30% increase overall of safety and reduction of accidents, I should say. And it's being ascribed to the fact that the stop signs weren't ran at those points where they were prior to that installation.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I did Google it when Google does everything. And I did see anywhere between 28 and 41% better safety on something like that.
That's about right.
I just wanted to make sure that we're doing our homework here too. So, yes, I'm sorry.
If I could jump in, when I was, before I came here, I was a public works director, and we installed a pilot program in the city I worked in. And we saw, most dramatically, a reduction in the speed approaching a stop sign. So if there was an accident, it was potentially less severe than someone just blowing through a stop sign. That was the most notable, observable outcome that we saw.
Okay, who's next?
Well,
I've got a lot of hands here.
Debbie
Okay.
was.
Can I read something? And then everybody, I just want to read what I found.
Okay.
Minnesota Department of Transportation researchers found a 41.5% reduction in right-angle crashes after installing flashing LED stop signs. That was in January of 2021.
All right, who's next, Joan?
How did you determine where the stop signs are placed?
What they did is they looked at where the violations were being written. Also, areas where they looked to were where there was not great visibility from one angle of the street intersecting with the other, and as well as the pedestrian traffic that they saw, people that were actually using the sidewalks and crossing the streets in those areas.
So with any luck, we'll see a reduction in our stop sign blow-throughs.
Okay, Elsie.
My numbers keep growing. I brought this up and I brought a few things up, and I thought I got some indication that they were going to be looked at. And one of them was, at least I don't have any current data, except so far as the actual tickets that are issued. Okay, the notices of violations that are issued in terms of people running. And I know it's a problem. Although I got to throw in here that I've never had one person in traffic hearings say that they couldn't see the sign and that's why they didn't stop. They see it, they just don't stop. So, and I'm not saying I'm against this program, but without, and like as far as right angle collisions, do we have any data on, like, I know we have the tickets issued, but like accidents, fatalities, God forbid. I think anytime you have streets such as ours that are geared towards, our pedestrians, we have we don't even have curbs in most cases. We got golf carts, we got cars, we got pedestrians, we got bicycles, and I love it. But there's going to be a conflict, and everybody needs to be very careful. Obviously, I think I like those little education blurbs we get here and there about how to walk safely, because a lot of people don't think about it. They're plugged into their earbuds and listening to music and not watching, and that's important. But without any data, I don't know. I'm going to have to vote no on this, and I know it won't probably make any difference, but it isn't because I don't think it's possibly a good idea. I just don't know if it's the right solution. I don't even have an issue. I don't even have enough data to say this is a huge issue. But if it is a huge issue, then I just think we could test it at a smaller scale. I realize 21 doesn't sound like a lot, and $45,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot to me. And anyway, I just wanted to say my piece before I didn't vote for this, but it's not because I don't think it's a good idea if the data backs it up. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any traffic accident data here with me today, but I can tell you that it's an enhancement program to traffic safety. And I think as our CEO has expressed that the flashing that seemed to reduce the speeds of people entering the intersection, those are probably the most things that we're concerned about, and also to get their attention if they're not paying attention for pedestrians, as well as running that for a broadside accident. But
how many accidents actually happen as a result of stop sign running? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't have that here.
Oh, okay, thank you. But you're here, and that's what's important.
Yeah, I realize there's not a lot of statistics here, but I think we've cited some statistics from outside. One of the things, because I live very close to the main intersection here, number one, and one of the things I've watched, when I walk, is how many times a driver does not realize there's a pedestrian or a golf cart getting ready to cross. And the only time they realize it is when they happen to look right or left, and out of the corner of their eye, and they stop. By that time, they're already in the crosswalk. And usually, the pedestrian is waving the car by. I've seen that, and I know this is an anecdotal story, but I've seen that so often and have been victimized by it so often when I cross the street. I don't know that this fixes that, but I know if the attention span, and we all are losing that to some degree, when that attention span is tricked to say, notice me, there's a tendency to be noticed until it becomes mundane. So maybe that's what you're saying.
Madam Chair. Is there any other comments? All right, so Joan and then Riza.
Okay, I just want to remind you that when we see a flashing yellow for a crosswalk, we do tend to slow down, and the flashing light does get your attention. So whether it's red or yellow, I think it's very important that that helps us observe what we're supposed to.
Riza?
I support this resolution, but I will hold my thoughts on the result of it probably 3 months after it was installed, and we can look at the data and probably convince ourselves we did the right thing, we need more, or we said, okay, we spend a little bit of money and it's okay. So we'll figure that out after it's installed and we see some data on traffic issues. We don't have severe accident. Those data that you mentioned is based on the severity of accident that people go run to the. Here, the people that slow down, I call it somebody critical. Critics me. Is it California stop type? Go slowly through the process. It doesn't matter if there is a flashing
Boulevard
light
stop,
or a whip.
not California stop. Boulevard stop.
No, whatever we call it. I call it Easterboard stuff. But that's, we'll see the result of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Razor, we'll see the results in less revenue from fines.
Right. So
Well, I don't know.
it's a double-edged sword, but
Okay.
I have a comment.
Well, Egon was first and then you. Okay.
I've got a couple of questions. Are you replacing the poles or just the signs?
They're replacing the poles and the signs, and that's part of the cost. One of the in there to do it, and the reason why they're replacing the poles, and you may have seen the square poles that have the holes in them, because when you hit typically a round pole that's cemented into the ground, they actually have to dig up the entire cemented pole out of the ground to replace it because it's of the integrity that's lost. Versus these, where what they wind up doing is they cut it from where it's connected or disconnected, and they place the pole right on top of it, and then it's bolted back together.
Okay, so you're not re-cementing them into the ground. I was really just thinking about the cost. I was thinking you would go up and just unscrew the stop sign and put a new one up there, but
no.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the suggestion when we went to ask what the cost for VMS labor to do it. This was the recommendation.
That's a question that really intrigues me. So VMS is not going to hire employees to put these signs on. They're existing employees, right?
Yes.
And they're being paid, right?
Yes.
So why are we being double dipped here on putting $4,000? Oh, what is it? $6,000 for the labor or something? Why are we? Just as a policy, why are we doing that? Because they're already getting paid, even if they stay back at the ranch and sit on a chair and drink coffee. The same amount of money is being spent. In other words, what I'm saying is, shouldn't it just reflect the cost of the materials that we're putting in?
I know what you're saying. It's always a question of finance, which is something that I cannot speak on. But Jim.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, it's a relatively small amount, and we're not even sure what the source of that is at the moment. So I don't think that would be the showstopper, although it's worth investigating why there's additional labor associated with it. It may be outside labor. And we just don't, I'm not quite sure.
It does say VMS person, it says labor parentheses, VMS personnel, $6,430. So that is a question mark.
Yeah, it is a question mark.
Yeah, I believe when they put this together, it was prior to me getting here actually, but in reviewing that, I was told that when they gave an estimation of how much time it would take them and the cost of that labor, it was inputted there in terms of charging back VMS for the GRF for this. It's obvious that it's coming out of the same place, and they shouldn't be double charged for that if that's truly what this project is, right? And we're using in-house personnel to do that. I think this was a cost associated with what they said it would cost us, so that we had a clear understanding.
So to say it in financial terms, it's just a monetization of internal labor. It's really not an external cost. Does that make sense?
That's correct.
Well, all I'm
It's a in other words, what is it going to take to do this? And here's the labor involved. And someone put a dollar amount to that. We can actually, from a purposes of estimating this, we could actually take that away.
That's the reason I brought it up. It's actually much more important for the bench project, because on the bench project, the labor costs are significantly higher. They're like $50,000 or $60,000. What I'm really asking is, if we do this project, is Jim going to release a check for $36,000 or for $42,000?
This is an estimate. And so what we're really doing is authorizing a range of dollars to do this project. We're going to leave it up to the implementers to do the best job they can to hold costs down. So this is not absolute dollars going out. I mean, no one's come in and says, here is my guaranteed estimate on this. This is an estimate, including VMS labor, and we know that VMS labor should not be included in this estimate. So yes, is it 42 less 6? Probably. I don't know how to say it any differently.
It'll be less than that then.
This is an unplanned project, and we want to know what the cost of labor is, because those labor are not going to do the regular job and going to focus on this job. It costs us one way or the other because those people are going to not do a function and do this function, and that must have how much it costs. Although we might not write a check for it, but we're paying it for it anyway.
but yeah, and it's just not out of pocket.
Yeah.
It's you're taking labor and putting it someplace else.
Exactly.
It's always been confusing to me. I do have to tell you that. Okay, so are we have one more question?
No.
Debbie?
I just want to comment about statistics and things. We have over 250 stop signs, so this is less than 10% to pilot to see if there's any impact. The other thing is we don't know how many near misses there are. Jim mentions walking. I can tell you, I look at 3 or 4 where those locations are, and I've had near misses myself and seen near misses. As we age, our cognitive ability degrades. Sorry, that's just the way it is. And some of our stop signs, if you look at them, they're actually quite old in like light. You know, I think we need to have, if at these, you did a great job going on and identifying the areas that really have, can be used for data. And I appreciate that. And I think we have to see how it plays out. But based on all what I have read and why I even brought this up back to this committee over a year ago was because, we do have to increase our safety and remind our residents to stop at stop signs. Apparently our communications to, remember, stop at the stop sign is not working. That's all. So, I mean, I'm reading about it a lot, and I really did a lot of my own research prior to even bringing this up. So I think that we'll see with 6 months after this done, you can come back and tell us if it worked or not, and if it didn't work, then this is what we bought.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to have one more comment, and then we'll go ahead.
I have a comment.
Oh, we have, okay.
Go
Again.
on. I'm listening all the arguments that you have, and the purpose of this spending $42,000 or so is for increase the visibility and safety. Everywhere else, in all the cities, there are only stop sign. It is not enlightened by, electric light or anything like that. There are other pressing needs of money for the community. So my question is, what is the significant increase in visibility or safety we can gain by spending this $42,000?
Will you ask that question again?
My question is that is there any significant increase in sign visibility or safety by putting this solar stop signs? Because everywhere else, a simple stop sign works.
My personal, especially at night, around in the village, I mean, you can still get lost because it's dark. So to me, I appreciate a flashing light because I could very easily miss a stop sign. So that's the reason.
Are these motion sensitive stop signs?
No, they're flashing all the time.
So it stays on all the time?
Can you answer that, Eric?
Yes, it stays on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it flashes. Generally, they range from 50 to 60 times per minute. You'll see that thing flashing like once every second or so.
There is one in Santa Maria Avenue, if you go from Moulton to Santa Maria Avenue, that
Yeah, I have
stops
seen
out from,
some.
that's exactly the same way, that's what it is.
Are there any more questions?
Just a quickie comment.
Okay.
And it's about, I mean, that's fine. Everybody's talking about, let's address it again in 6 months, and maybe we can put in more. I'm not against this idea in principle, but if we aren't keeping any kind of data now, except for the number of tickets written, which is definable, and that's a real thing. Aside from that, if we're not keeping the records now, how are we going to tell if there's an improvement in 6 months? Okay, I mean, and if we can't keep the track of, I don't care. I just want to know that we're proceeding in a logical way because, I mean, why not put up, big, huge banners in the streets saying, be more careful. I mean, we can take this to an extreme, and we are grown-up people, and if we shouldn't be driving, we shouldn't be driving. And like I say, I'm not against it in theory. If it saves one life, of course, that's important. I'm just not sure that we have enough to go on to commit to a project like this. That's all.
Joe.
So are you suggesting that maybe we just have it at certain crosswalks, major crosswalks like at Sevilla and Cali Aragon, for example?
Yeah, like maybe half a dozen to start with and to see
not so
how
many?
it works. And
I think
that was all I originally thought.
I'm sure the committee went through this thoroughly, but I'm just asking.
I don't know. I brought it up at that's where I brought it up before. Hey, and again, that's what I think.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, this is my last comment. I think by virtue of there being 21 stop signs and 250 others, that I think that this is kind of a pilot program to take the high traffic areas and say, does this have impact? As far as statistics are concerned, we know it has impact because all the statistics from all the other cities.
But that's all the other cities. That's not this. We're not keeping the records now, Jim. How are we going to be able? How can we call it a pilot if we don't know what records we're keeping?
But when you have a near miss, how do you keep that record?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's the problem.
Also remember that we have a lot of people came here and asked for the safety. I think that during the committee meeting, we have people came here and specifically asked for some of these things, and is a safety issue that we're looking at also at the same time to answer the concern of some of the members, especially, people with challenges, that came in here and asked for support. I think it's a small project, and we're trying to address those safety issues with the members that came in, I think,
Okay. I just have one question to ask here, and that is because it didn't go through finance, can we go ahead, I'm asking Joan here, can we go ahead and vote on this? And then during the 28 days, have finance endorse it?
We've
Okay.
done that before.
When's your next meeting, Jim?
It's June 15th, is it?
So it's long before our deadline.
Oh, yeah.
So it would
No,
go
that's-
through finance.
It's
and then-
next week.
And then it will go
Yeah.
through finance and then appear next month as having gone through finance with their results.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. All right, so that ends, do we have any other question?
Let's take a vote.
Oh, this was by Lee?
She's
Okay. She's just basically asking is measurable outcomes, and why not look at tickets and traffic reports on those areas before installation and after installation? Okay, but we are going to be looking at the traffic reports.
And Bunny, when this all started, all this stuff came through security, the committee, and all that, this statistics and all that data came. So that part has been done.
Okay.
It's the aftermath that we don't know. And to Elsie's point, yeah, we don't have a way to track near misses. But, we do know how many tickets we write, and we don't need a fatality to show us that we need it. That's the other thing.
Okay.
We haven't had one, thankfully, except for one guy apparently at some point. But we've had a lot of people almost get hit.
Okay, so we do need to vote. There's been a lot of discussion here, and I think it's time to
There've
vote.
been enough comments, so now
Yes,
take
okay.
a vote for the
So,
for and
I
against.
think we're going to ask all those in favor of the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. 9.
All against.
And all those against? Okay, 1 against. So the motion passes. And I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, President.
Okay,
Thank you all.
all right. So the next item of business is to entertain a motion to approve the sponsorship of a mini horse at the Equestrian Center, and it will be postponed, the final vote, for 28 days. Okay, do we have any
There's a resolution.
resolution? Okay, go ahead and read the resolution.
There are some corrections to the resolution, Michaela. It's just things that they keep putting in. And I'll read it as a correction.
Okay,
Resolution 90-22XX, donation agreement between GRF and Mr. and Mrs. Fox. The agreement entered into the 7th day of June 2022 is by and between the Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, and Mr. and Mrs. Fox, donor, who donated $3,000 for the Laguna Woods Village Equestrian Center to be used for mini horse Sebastian's care. Whereas GRF and donor recognize the importance of community facilities and amenities. And whereas GRF and donor acknowledge the benefit of donations when they have a purpose consistent with GRF goals and are in the best interest of Laguna Woods Village. And whereas the donor has offered to donate $3,000 for the Laguna Woods Village Equestrian Center to be used for mini horse Sebastian's care. And whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department Director or Financial Services Director reviewed and affirms the proposed donation meets the criteria for acceptance contained in the GRF donation policy. And they are A, to meet a true need of the facility, B, not interfere with the intended current or future use of the facility, and C, not require the relocation of other equipment or infrastructure to accommodate the donation. Now therefore be it resolved, and date next month, that GRF and donor, in accordance with the described conditions and obligations hereinafter set forth and agree as follows. Section 1. The donation known as $3,000 for the Laguna Woods Village Equestrian Center to be used for mini horse Sebastian's care, described below, is donated in its entirety to GRF, hereafter owned by GRF and managed on behalf of the residents of Laguna Woods Village by Village Management Services, Inc., VMS. Section 2, donation description. $3,000 for the Laguna Woods Village Equestrian Center to be used for mini horse Sebastian's care. Space of facility, Equestrian Center. Location, Equestrian Center. Amount, Section 3, amount of donation. Item cost, $3,000. Installation cost, 0. Maintenance cost, 0. Total estimated donation, $3,000. Section 4, GRF reserves the right to move and or remove and or retire the donation following cessation of the 5-year period. The term shall commence upon the date entered into and indicated above. Section 5, GRF will not replace the donation or community space improvement if it is stolen, vandalized, worn out, irreparably damaged, destroyed, or expires. Section 6, installation and maintenance. GRF shall be responsible for installation and maintenance of the item, including any reasonable repairs. Section 7, term. The term of this agreement is a minimum of 5 years or beyond, if applicable. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move that we approve this resolution for the purpose of discussion here and postpone the final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360. Yvonne, who seconds? Okay.
Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Okay,
This is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
okay.
Oh, no, I just want to know if it's one-time donation or is monthly donation.
It's a one-time
No,
donation.
it's a one-time donation.
Because it's in things says $230.
I know, if I can say, a lot of this is boilerplate.
Oh, okay.
So when it
That's fine.
refers to 5 years and so on, and
That's
that's boilerplate. It doesn't refer to a one-time donation.
Yeah. And Juanita, there was a question?
I question whether this needs to go on 28-day.
It's a change in policy.
It's not in the donation policy that it needs to go on a 28-day review. I think we should be able to vote on this at this meeting.
I would agree.
So,
Since it doesn't change any rules in the policy, is no amount of money that we are spending, I would suggest that we don't postpone it. So if I may, no. I want to amend the motion
okay.
so that we do not postpone it for 28 days because it isn't really per Civil Code 4360. So I propose that we vote immediately on this, and I propose that we accept this resolution as written. Well,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Seeing how they already got $3,000.
Okay. Are there any objections? So I don't think if this is a corrected amendment, is it? Or because we just decided that we didn't really need the 28 days?
If I can't, okay, let me ask for permission. This is crazy. I need permission to withdraw the first motion. Anyone disagree with that? Okay, then I withdraw the first motion and give you the second motion, which is not to wait the 28 days, but simply approve this resolution.
Okay.
Excuse me, it's in the motion. It was in the motion, and it is in the, never
Yes.
mind.
Okay.
It's there. We don't need to do it.
All right, at this point, we've passed discussion. Are there any objections? So if there's no objection, then the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And we are at a point, does everyone want a break before we proceed with the committee reports? Nobody wants a break? I do. 5-minute break. I'll be right back. And if anybody else wants a break.
I already had to go. I couldn't wait for this. This was way too long. My bladder said, no way.
Let me see how I'm gonna get back in.
Designer for 27 diamonds or 25 diamonds, whatever it was, the diamond one. The designer that they're proposing, one for us, was on the Trinity, and we asked,
Okay, everybody, let's.
10 years ago. So I went to video for 20 minutes. Hardly anybody stopped. I'm good with that.
Where is
It's an argument.
Jim.
Nobody else.
Let's go. Let's go. We got it 12:30.
That's funny. Oh, God. I gotta stand for a couple of minutes. Oh, God.
Okay, we're going to resume the meeting, and we do have a 1:30 commitment today in closed meeting. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the Treasury report, and then the other reports, people can just say when the next meeting is, or we could just either not have the reports and.
No, I'd say the next meeting.
And go through the comments. So, just spilled my water. Jim, will you go ahead with your report?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have the report? Thank you. This is slide 1, and what it indicates is that through the reporting period of April 30th, 2022, GRF had a net revenue of $1,159,000, that's at the bottom, from a total revenue of $15,186,000, and a total expense of $14,027,000. GRF was better than budget by $390,000, with total expenses coming in at $1,497,000 better than anticipated. The favorable results seen in the expenses were partially offset by lower revenues of $1,107,000. I will speak more about those lower revenues on charts 3 and 4, which are new to in addition to the normal report. Slide 2, please. Slide 2 shows the operating portion of our financial results, which is without the reserve income and investment income. This drives most of our per manor per month calculation. The operating fund, which is also shown without depreciation, shows a favorable variance of $1,319,000 through the reporting period, with expense better than budget by $1,495,000. This is offset by revenue worse than budget by $176,000. Next chart, please. And as I mentioned, I want to take a moment to talk about our current year unrealized loss of $1,014,000 on the investment portfolio. That is the driver of the $1,107,000 non-assessment revenue variance on chart 1. Using the chart before you, I will take us through a brief history of the portfolio performance. As you may know, our investment is predominantly U.S. Treasury bond funds. We do not actively trade these bonds as they are long-term. They are a combination of long-term and medium-term investments, and they're designed to yield to be held at maturity. Thus, what we record is the change in valuation, which is why we call it unrealized, as we do not actively trade bonds to incur actual gains or losses. Nevertheless, the period losses are ugly to look at and do represent loss should we need to sell them. This chart displays the value history of our portfolio and shows that while the losses this year have been so far been $1,014,000, or 5.2% of the inception to date loss, or 5.2% of the inception. Our inception to date loss is $550,000, or 2.7%. The annual roller coaster impact reflects the market for bond funds and interest rates. Our investment advisor continues to advise us to hold tight and allow things to settle, as he expects the bonds to gain favorability. So just to look at this chart again, we started at $19,031,000. As of April, that value of that bond portfolio is $18,516,000. Okay? That reflects, again, an annual change from inception of 2.7% of its original. Now, when we've looked at and studied the bond flow of past bonds and bond funds, we've seen a very similar flow, although it's been much more steady to its up, but we've had ups and downs in given fiscal periods. And so that's what we are experiencing right now. And like I said before, it still is not fun to look at. Now, the next chart shows, shows that why we can afford to wait out the market. Our reserves are at about $30 million, with the portfolio making up about $18.5 million of that. In other words, we have enough liquidity to sustain our reserve cash requirements. So there's no threat at the moment that we would need to sell those bonds and suffer the realized loss. Next slide, please. Now, speaking of reserves, the next chart shows that the reserve and restricted revenues and expenses. Together, these funds show an unfavorable variance of $929,000 through the reporting period, with revenue worse than budget by $932,000 and expense better than budget by $3,000. Again, the portfolio performance is driving the non-assessment revenue variance. Next chart, please. Now, this slide shows the most significant operating variances by category, with the green bars representing favorable variances and the orange bars representing unfavorable. Okay, the employee compensation and related shows an $809,000 favorable variance, primarily due to general services, as there are 7 open bus driver and 3 custodian positions open, and there, of course, the recruitment is in process. In addition, recreation has various positions unfilled, resulting from the clubhouse closures and limited hours. Outside services shows a variance of $222,000 due to unutilized evening janitorial services, again, as the clubhouses remain closed and open for limited hours. Materials and supplies show a variance of $163,000, a positive variance, due to less materials needed for clubhouses and vehicle repairs due to limited hours of the schedule of open clubhouse schedule and less vehicles being driven due to open positions. To a lesser extent, unused contingency budgets for carpentry and paint services furthered the variance. Professional fees show a variance of $114,000 due to the timing of invoices. Essentially, the invoices for audit and tax preparation have yet to be paid, and so this is more of a timing variance than it is a real actual variance at the moment. They will be paid. In the unfavorable, we show some offsetting unfavorable variances are included. Broadband services are unfavorable, show an unfavorable variance of $218,000. This is due to lower high-speed internet revenue than budgeted. The budget anticipated the contract renegotiations in which GRF would be awarded a higher revenue per share of percentage of share. The negotiations are still ongoing, and I'm not sure when they will be completed. I'll have to ask that question. The variance was furthered by less ad insertion as a result of ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, causing advertisers to spend less. And last, on this chart, we show a $95,000 unfavorable variance in the utilities and telephones due to higher natural gas costs in the recreation department. The variance was furthered by higher water expense for the golf course. This water expense is a result of a 78% less rainfall than the 3-year average used for budgeting. Next slide, please. Now, turning to sources of operating revenue other than assessments, such as fees and rentals. To date, we have received just over $3,183,000 of non-assessment operating revenue. By category, we can see that our largest revenue, as usual, is broadband services at 54% of the $3.2 million. This is followed by golf revenue, which is 23%, and that includes merchandise sales, and then followed by merchandise sales and clubhouse rentals. Next slide, please. Okay, the operating expenses to date show just over $12.2 million, excluding depreciation. Shown on this pie chart are our largest categories, which show compensation at 62%, cable programming fees at 11%, and that's followed by insurance, professional, and legal fees, as well as utilities, fuel, and then, of course, last is outside services. Well, other expenses actually last. Next slide, please. The reserve and restricted funds are shown here with the adjusted balances. Starting with the first column on the left, the reserve funds have a combined ending balance of $32.1 million. The restricted or contingency fund balance shows an ending balance of $2.4 million, with only $43,000 shown as a known obligation. That contingency balance, by the way, we do expect to have to pay some fines and legal fees as a result of an old legal case. And so it's not shown here as a work in process, but it is one of the reasons why the contingency balance remains at $2.4 million. The second column shows a work in process of $2.2 million for the reserves, and that reflects the amounts paid for projects that are not completed. Just as a side note, this $2.2 million of work in process for reserve spending is the lowest we've had for many years. The third column represents the resulting adjusted fund balance. And again, it shows the 29.8 or $30 million for our reserve. Slide 10, please. Okay. Now, we have a slide here to show the resale history from 2020 to 2022. The community-wide sales totaled 353 so far through April 30th, 2022. This is 55% over 2020 and 29% over 2021. Most of these transactions generate the trust facilities fee, which we use as a source of revenue for reserves. Note, though, that the new transfer fee of $7,500 went into effect for purchase contracts entered into after January 1st, 2022, or closing after March 31st, 2022. So the impact of that change is just starting to show. Next chart, please. Now, this listing on this slide gives you an idea of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $13 million appropriated by the board for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrances against our reserve funds is $10.6 million, and that's primarily for renovation projects. Again, considering the $10.6 million in encumbrances, the $2.2 million of actual work in process may be a sign of delayed implementation. We need to take a good look as to what is queued up so that we are funded appropriately. Next slide. Now, as we compare our adjusted fund balances to the historical balances of the past 5 years, we show that GRF has averaged $25 million in reserve funds and $1.3 million in contingency funds. As shown previously, the current balances are $30 million and $2.4 million in contingency. That ends the Treasury report, and are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Jim. I think at this time we'll start with any comments, from the directors. But what I would like to do is, if you have anything as we go around, like start with Juanita. If you have anything to say about your when landscaping next meet, if you would say that, and if you have any comments, make a comment, and then we'll go on to the next person.
Okie dokie, thank you, Madam Chair. Landscape Committee will meet tomorrow, and at each meeting, we take one function of landscape and illuminate it and talk about it and have a report from the people involved. And we're going to look at grounds maintenance this particular meeting. We're also going to recognize the employees that got excellence rewards this quarter. The other thing I'd like to say with regards to landscape is we in GRF do not have a water committee. I think we need one. I would be happy to have that as a subcommittee under landscape if the board does not want to make that a full committee. I do attend the CAG meetings, Community Access Group meetings. They're very insightful. We get a lot of good information, which I try to pass along then at our landscape committee. So just a suggestion in the future that we think about adding a water subcommittee.
Okay.
And then, excuse me, our next meeting is tomorrow, 1:30, here in the boardroom.
Okay. Thank you. Yvonne?
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that all of the events planned or coordinated by the Recreation Department in the past 6 or 7 weeks have been successful. To mention a few, Easter at the Equestrian Center was attended by 500 people. The Health and Wellness was attended by 820 people. And the Village Games were well attended, and the Mother's Day brunch was sold out. We, and I'm going to say for all of us, would like to give a special thanks to all the volunteers and the Recreation Department for the fabulous Renaissance Fair, and kudos to the Equestrian Center team, the Old Pros, the Wood Shop, Clown Alley, and all the clubs that participated to make it a success. I want to thank each and every one of you. And the next CAC meeting is Thursday, June 9th. Thank you.
Elsie?
Well, my report's much more interesting than that. Well, I think so. There were 6 people that showed up for traffic hearings. This is the hearings report. And only one of those was a stop sign violation, which is a huge improvement. Now, keep in mind, these are only people that have disputed their tickets. So maybe they're just all agreeing to it. But anyway, because I'm very concerned about running stop signs. It's a very bad, dangerous thing. Anyway, so that was on Wednesday, May 18th. The next meeting is June 15th at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
That was it.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, the ICTAC committee had its official kickoff with Adventico. Adventico also entertained the staff last week. And so we're off and running on the project of installing not evaluating, but installing a new ERP and analyzing all of our processes here. So that's we look forward. This is, again, weekly meetings, and we're driving it forward.
Okay, Debbie?
Strategic planning, no change since the last report, and it was a good meeting today, and we got a lot done. Thank you.
The M&C committee did not have a regular meeting in May. The next meeting is tomorrow, June 8th, at 9:30 in the boardroom. The Clubhouse renovation ad hoc committee also did not have a meeting. However, we did have an informal, not an informal meeting, a formal meeting to talk to 2 providers of design consultancies. And I think we have the information we need to make a decision. And the guy west of maintenance and committee, engineering manager will send that information to us. And I'm tentatively planning to have a meeting for the ad hoc committee in either June 17th or June 24th of this month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the purchasing task force, we're on hold right now. And basically, we want to make sure that the policies are in line with the new ERP system. And so on June 15th, there will be a workshop which I will attend with Adventico. And staff has asked for this too. They want to make sure that when we write our policy, it's in sync with the system. And as far as the equestrian ad hoc, I couldn't make it the last time because I had too many on my plate at the same time. And I asked Yvonne to lead that. So was there anything that you would have to say about the Equestrian Center ad hoc committee?
No, not nothing special, except that we got $3,000 for taking care of Sebastian.
Sebastian, yes. Okay.
That everybody wants to talk about. And the other thing is that they've gotten about a third of the money for Help the Herd, and they've already ordered 6 new shade covers for the horses. So they're well on their way. People sure love that equestrian center.
Okay. Joan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good meeting today, that's my comment. The Media and Communications Committee met, and we have the Ad hoc Committee for Broadband Group will be meeting this month in June, as will the Website Ad hoc Committee. Again, you will receive your invitation, so be there. And our next meeting is Monday, June 20th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom.
Okay, Jan?
Well, I'll be attending a few meetings that is coming up, primarily the MNC committee tomorrow, and then ad hoc committee for the Clubhouse one. But nothing else that I shared, so I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don?
In security, our major discussion was the flashing light stop signs, and I would like to thank you for supporting that. There's a lot of studies across the nation that have proved that they are effective, and I think you'll be very pleased with what we will have. Our next meeting will be June 27th at 1:30 in this room. In the Mobility and Vehicles Committee, the ridership on our fixed route program has gone down a little bit. We aren't sure why, but just it's gone down a little. Our journey trip program remains about the same, 614 trips, 88 users. And the Boost program is only used when our regular fixed route is not working, and that remains about the same. So overall, we're doing fine.
Thank you. Reza?
How much time I have?
You have 1/2 second. No, I'm just teasing.
I just wanted, it was a good, long meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else or Siobhan wants to. Okay, so we will recess and go to the Willow Room at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I missed everything. By 1:15, we have an appointment at 1:30.
Okay, perfect.
So, yes.
Thank you.